Okay, we'll call to order the City of Laguna Beach Planning Commission for August 5th. Can we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Dubin,
Here.
Commissioner Sadler,
Here.
Commissioner Whiten, Chair Pro Tem Goldman, Chair Kellenberg.
Here. Okay, thank you all for coming. The first item on the agenda tonight is the election of officers. So we are enough sufficient time as water's gone under the bridge that it's time to elect a new chairperson and pro tem. So shall I just call for a motion? Or
Correct.
do we
Yeah,
need to have
it's-
discussion? Or?
It is really up to the discretion. This is a very discretionary. You can do them both all in one kind of nomination. You can do them each individually. If you're going to do them each individually, I advise you do the chairperson first, but if you want to knock them out from both. that's
Okay,
up to
well,
them.
I'll just call for any nominations if someone on the commission would like to make one.
Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Goldman to be the new chairperson.
Second.
And I'd also like to nominate Commissioner Dubin to be chair pro tem.
Second.
And now the one thing they must accept, but as long as there's no objection, we can take the silence as acquiescence.
Okay.
Can we please have silence? Okay.
Rest of the meeting.
Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, it's official.
Changing of the.
We have to change.
You know, I forgot, there's no plug in this chair. Sure. Like it, sure.
There you go. It's all warmed up.
Yeah. Is that yours?
It has a red button though.
I like that, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you too. Okay. Get organized here. All right, public communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the planning commission regarding items not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the planning commission. No action may be taken off agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes each unless extended for good cause by the commission. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing as there are none, I will now close the public communications and move to the consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar tonight. Would any commissioners like to pull the item? Would any members of the public like to pull the item?
I move approval of the consent calendar. Second.
Okay, roll call, please, Nancy.
Yes. Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Kellenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Goldman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's see. I think we go with, all right, we're ready to go. Item 6.1, conditional use permit 2026-1377. Presenting for the city, Jessica?
Give me one moment, just getting permission to share. All right. Good evening. I will be presenting item 6.1. This is a request for a conditional use permit amendment for the business Le Macaron at 184 South Coast Highway.
And actually, if I interrupt for a second, any disclosures? I always forget that. Okay, sorry, Jessica.
The business is in the commercial business district in the downtown Pacific Plan, facing Coast Highway and Main Beach. Other surrounding uses include retail and food service. Le Macaron specializes in French macarons, pastries, coffee, chocolates, and specialty desserts currently limits gelato sales to gelato sandwiches only. The conditional use permit 26-1377 would delete the condition 19 to replace it with the condition of permit gelato service in cups and cones as a ancillary component of the approved use, while restating and maintaining all other conditions that the resolution 21-9542 was approved before. And then the slide before you is the frontage and then the interior of the business. Little background. So on May 5th, 2016, the Planning Commission approved CUP 160464. This was to establish the takeout macaron shop at 154 South Coast Highway with the condition that prohibited gelato sales. In September 1st, 2021, the Planning Commission approved conditional use permit 21-9542. This was to replace CUP 2016-0464 to relocate and operate the same takeout food service establishment that was located at 188 South Coast Highway. The CUP 21-9542 relocated its business to the current suite for under CUP 21. Let me see, under the current suite today for the condition that we're replacing today to limit the gelato sales for macaron sandwiches. Next slide. As previously mentioned, the application before you is to amend conditional use permit 21-9542. This is to limit the gelato sales to macaron gelato sandwiches and prohibit the standalone sales. The amendment for today would include to delete the condition 19 in the resolution, which is for the request to allow gelato to be served in cups and cones. The downtown specific plan table 5.1 does allow for 15 ice cream, confectionery, dessert uses in the downtown. Today, there are currently 9 that exist. Condition 19 would regulate the form for this application of just the menu item. The project does not change any existing establishment uses or conditions or any modifications to the suite itself. It's just to request for the change on condition 19 to allow for cups and cones to be served with gelato. In conclusion, the application today is consistent with the general plan and downtown specific plan. There aren't any physical changes to the building or the premises. It is categorically exempt from CEQA, exempt from coastal development permit requirements, and all required findings can be made as conditioned. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 26-1377. This is to approve conditional use permit 26-1377 and finding the project categorically exempt from CEQA, subject to the findings and the conditions in the resolution. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
I have one quick question. Is this a different applicant than the one we heard at our last hearing?
I believe the last hearing, I think it's the same applicant. They've been running the business for about 3 years. I guess it was 2021. It could be, but I mean,
Okay, we can.
I could ask that question to the applicant today.
Jessica, I have a question about the code and the use and the need for doing this at all. The section of the code 2505030K, we're here because that requires a modification of use. This is, you just said, this is not a modification of use. Because that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is the table 5.1, the note under the table says that the city will regulate hours, its parking, et cetera, things like that, but will not regulate the menu. So here we are regulating the menu. So I don't, both of those things seem to indicate to me that we don't need to do anything. Or we shouldn't be doing anything because of the DSP and the code itself, because this is not a modification of use. This is still a dessert shop. We're just saying, okay, you can put the gelato in a cone.
Well, as I recall, and I don't know if this is why, and that's one of the reasons I asked the applicant, when we heard this the last time, the reason that my recollection is the reason that we prohibited the sale of gelato was for competition reasons with the other existing ice
Right.
cream shop.
That's right.
Speaking of money. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I don't know if everybody heard me.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and speak to a portion of that. The conditional use permit is required because there's an existing conditional use permit on site. If we had a brand new use established today that did not have any of the CUP requirements that we're specifying, I would say the 2021 application was very specific in the conditions of approval, and the only way to alleviate them of complying with those conditions is to apply for an amendment. And so that's where this pathway comes forward. Whether the commission would have gotten into the nitty-gritty method of service for the menu item if it were a brand new application today, it's hard to say. But that is another item that the staff wanted to go ahead and point out. So the downtown specific plan, the 2022 update, it was very intentional about going through and no longer regulating the menu item specifically. This did get into the method of serving that menu item as opposed to changing the menu items. So it is a little bit more nuanced than that. But it is something that I think the DSP update in 2022 did intend to back away from.
But we actually put this condition on since then, correct?
The condition was in 2021 and the DSP
Okay.
update was in 2022 when it was actually certified.
And then, just to add to that, of course, agree, and I can't speak for the applicant, or in this instance, the owner of the CUP. There may be other conditions in the CUP that they like. And once again, the CUP is a land use entitlement. It allows you to do certain things. And so in order, for their business, for their operations, just to clean it up, that may be something that they're interested. But once again, I can't speak for the applicant.
So it's kind of a cleanup.
I would say so.
Okay. Thank you.
But there was also, when we put that condition on, it was in response to a number of other businesses who spoke, very clearly about concerns about, having too much of a particular retail type within a certain area. So it wasn't like there was no kind of reason for it. So I'm curious to see, my question for you is, has there been any public requests or note? I didn't see any notices from the public against this change.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So to date, staff is not aware of any concerns, nor was anything provided in conjunction with this item. So we're not aware of any concerns. One of the asks is that if you were to consider this for approval, you would need to make all those same findings again. So when it was considered in 2021, the Planning Commission did need to make findings that warranted the restriction on the use. If you were to go through and consider removing the condition of approval in the following, as it's currently proposed, you'd have to make findings that say the restriction to cups or to not allow for cups and cones is not warranted.
In today's conditions, if we heard this for the first time today, would we be allowed to put that restriction on?
It's hard to speak, and I don't want to put the city's position formally on the record in something like this. I would lean towards no,
Okay, unofficially.
unofficially.
Oh.
We used to be in the business of
Mhm.
determining how many there could be and then where they could put the souvenirs in the store and what percentage of space and all this stuff.
And no t-shirts.
And no t-shirts.
Well, to follow up on that, so, that's my recollection as well. When we put this condition on, it was primarily in response to other local dessert shop owners having concerns about the competition. But there's nothing that would, and from what we've heard, we haven't gotten any correspondence showing any such opposition now. However, if somebody still would have the ability to come here tonight and raise that opposition if they wanted to, and we could take that into account. However, now we could point to this change in the downtown specific plan where it's specifically saying we're going to limit these type of dessert places to 15 in the downtown. And since we're only at 9, we could listen to somebody saying that and say, well, here's the story. We're not at 15. We're not quite that close to it. So, thank you for your comments. However, right? Is that kind of?
Yeah, through the chair, these are all items that you can go ahead and may come to light during the public hearing process. To date, staff hasn't received any concerns. We're not aware of anything that would help kind of alleviate some of the questions that you have. So I'd recommend going ahead and ask any questions that you have of myself, of the project planner, and then we can go ahead and see if there are any of those concerns at this time.
The only other small question I had was, I know it's a standard city typical condition of approval to prohibit the use of styrofoam for the containers. Do we know specifically what they're planning on using for the containers? And is there any issue with them using plastic versus paper?
I think that's a good question for the applicant. I believe they currently might have already the cups and they're following our ordinance, but that would be a good question. to
But we
ask them to
don't,
know.
the city currently has these restrictions using styrofoam, but
Yeah.
not specifically using other plastic containers.
Yeah.
We're not
We're
forcing
not.
businesses to use paper type
Well,
containers.
Yeah, generally, if you were looking at comparable examples, they do have other materials available. So that is a good question for the applicant as far as what their proposal would entail. But as it is a brand that has other locations, what staff is aware of are a paper cup.
Okay, and there was also a condition of approval specific for this project that requires some sort of, diligence in trying to maintain the outside area in front of the business for potential spills and litter and trash. And that's kind of a standard condition for these ice cream type businesses. Is that correct?
Through the chair, these are some potential conditions of approval that staff thought might be warranted in this case, not only because in its current, I would say, method of service in a cookie where you're truly consuming the entire item, you could lead to additional trash and debris that wouldn't otherwise be a part of that business. It could result in an increase from what is there today. So we did find some value in being able to address that, though it truly is at the discretion of the commission. If you find that those, I would say, are valid or those concerns are valid, you have potential conditions of approval that could address it. If you don't find merit in them, then it's easy to strike them out and not move forward with that portion of the resolution.
All right, thanks.
I've got a couple of questions. I noticed in the staff report that as far as people lining up at this location, that they're not allowed to go outside the interior space. I don't know if anybody's been by a couple of the other ice cream / gelato places, especially on weekends, but the one that's at Pepper Tree Lane, the line is down Pepper Tree Lane and out onto Coast Highway, and same with South Swell. So, I don't know how those are being monitored or if, if the city is paying attention to that, but, we're restricting that with this application. And it seems like we're not enforcing that at all anywhere else. And those lines are, believe me, it kind of blows my mind how big they are, and people are willing to wait for half an hour to get an ice cream or a gelato. So what's staff's response to that?
So through the chair, we do have, again, this potential condition of approval. We have witnessed that there have been, I would say, extensive queuing in the right of way with similar types of uses. And so that's where this condition might be coming from. But as of right now, it does tend to be complaint based as opposed to active enforcement on queuing lines. But the idea here is that the private business would not be impacting access to the public right of way. And so that's where the valid concern is coming from.
Well, it's certainly happening at Pepper Tree. I know that because you can barely even walk through the Pepper Tree Lane on a Saturday or Friday night, because of the people lined up waiting to get their sugar fix, you know, so I was just feeling like, you know, we're making this, you know, part of the approval process with this particular change. And I have a feeling that when they are serving gelato as a standalone item, that, you know, their business is going to increase. So, you know, it's something that I'm just wondering, you know, we tend to create these rules and restrictions, but it's also comes down to, you know, enforcement, which is carries me to my next question, which is we're also saying that this, if we do go ahead and change the CUP to allow this to happen with for, you know, cones and cups, you know, that it's still to remain an ancillary product. Like, again, these things come down to enforcement. Like how is the city going to make sure that they're selling more cookies than gelato? I mean, we keep creating these things, but there's no real sense that it's going to be enforceable. So I feel like, you know, we shouldn't be even putting these things in there unless the city's determined to actually monitor these kind of things. And they just seem kind of silly to me.
Yeah. So at the will of the commission, it is possible to either, I'd say, update the restriction to be more specific on how that monitoring were to take place. For example, going through and doing a comparison between the product types to ensure that it's ancillary. So that's one way to do it at that annual monitoring point. Or if the commission didn't find, I would say, that it warrants this condition of approval, it can be stricken.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any questions? Ken or Steve? Okay, shall we open it to the public, starting with the applicant?
Great. Good evening, Chair, and congratulations, and Planning Commission. My name is Michael Birmingham. My wife Connie and I are residents of Laguna Beach, and we own and operate the Le Macaron French pastries. We've been doing this thus for about 3 years now. So to answer your previous question, the previous applicant was a different person.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the planning staff for the thorough review, and I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration tonight. So I did have a slide deck, but I can talk through it. I only have 33 minutes, right? So basically, what we're asking for is a very modest modification to the CUP. As you know, we're allowed to sell gelato in cup format. You can go ahead. And we're just looking to add more traditional formats, cups and cones. And the main reason I'll get into in a second is it's really a matter of customer satisfaction or just a customer environment. Next slide. So acknowledging kind of the original intent, again, I wasn't at the last meeting, but my understanding was that there was a concern, and I think it's kind of reflected here, that we didn't evolve into a gelato shop. I think in the last 5 years, that certainly has been the case. We have not taken that evolution. Next slide, please. If we look at our products, we are very much a kind of a boutique macaron and pastry shop. We have handmade macarons, pastries, chocolates, coffees and beverages, and some other confections. So indeed, and I think this is an important point, about 70% of our revenue consistently comes from just macarons and pastries. So the gelato is an important product for us, no doubt. It's part of the, of our offerings for the customers, but it hasn't been, and it is not the focus of our business. But again, it is important. Next slide, please. Again, nothing changes with our identity or with the operations of the business. All of the things that have been in place and that we are approved for are in place, and some of the things that we brought up. We do not have any styrofoam. All of our offerings are in paper, takeout coffee cups, macaron boxes, pastry boxes, and so forth. So none of that is anticipated to change. Okay, next slide, please. And why does it make sense? Why are we doing this? Again, it's really for a customer point of view. We have many customers come into our shop. They see our gelato there. I mean, it's French gelato. It's nice. They like the gelato sandwiches, but frequently they want to get, I just want a cup of gelato. So it's kind of confusing for them. In fact, some customers get a little irate that we simply tell them we can't give you a scoop of gelato on your pastry, or we can put it in a cup for you. So some of them get a little testy at that. So customer experience could be better. And for our staff, it avoids some kind of difficult situations also. Okay. So basically, in conclusion, you know, I think since this has been since the CUP was previously approved, I think the downtown has evolved, and I think our ask is consistent with that evolution. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Anything made on premise?
Pardon me?
Any of your products made on premise?
We partially make some products like the croissants, those things that require some baking, but majority of what we have is off premises. Yeah.
Okay. Open it up. Thank you. Very nice presentation. Open it up to public comments, limited to 3 minutes, please. I see none. Okay, close the public session. Go to comments. Ken, you want to start?
Sure. You know, like we said, that times have changed. The city's attitude regarding some of these things have changed. You know, in the past, we'd be more, you know, inclined to think about product mixes and competition. And now some of that stuff's been clarified through the downtown specific plan. I appreciate what the owner was just saying about using paper for the cups. This particular location being right across from Main Beach, you know, we have too much plastic ending up in the ocean, and it's good that we don't have local businesses using as much plastic. I think the particular conditions of approval as outlined, some of them in particular, you know, the condition regarding queuing up outside, I think it's, you know, it's good to have that condition of approval in there. You know, the condition 19, this requires, you know, health department review of this change in food being supplied. The typical condition, not allowing styrofoam. And I think most importantly, the last condition, 37, which will require that the Director of Community Development review this application or proposal or approval 1 year after it's given. And that will allow the director then to evaluate whether some of these other conditions are being properly followed. So I guess at that point, you know, if there's just a general public comment or concern about any of the operations, and including items such as that queuing up thing, which could affect not just the you know, impeding the public walkway and right of way there, but also could potentially, you know, if you get along enough line, and if it's going past a neighboring store's front door, that can create an issue for a neighboring business as well. So I think that final review will help see that these conditions are being followed. So I'm willing to approve the project.
To me, this is, I don't know if there's much of an issue here because it is kind of a cleanup because city policy has changed and this condition doesn't really make sense anymore. But I do remember clearly the moment when we put that condition on and there was kind of an outcry from other businesses that there just wasn't enough business to serve an additional store serving gelato. And I think since then, things have certainly changed. It's almost like we need another business to try and cut down the length of the lines. There's clearly a rigorous demand for this product in town, if it's a good product. So I think that the previous issue is evaporated. And even if we thought it hadn't, I don't think we have the enablement to do anything but approve this without the previous condition. So I'm in support.
I'm also in support, and the city has deliberately gotten out of the business of regulating the details of how a business does its business, things of this nature. And I think that the move to eliminate control of menus is the right one to make when it relates to food-related business, because the city does not have any idea how to what's involved in running that sort of business, or what the proper mix is, or what the demands of the customers are, and what the trends are with the public. I agree with Commissioner Dubin about striking condition number 14 about regulating or reviewing the business to be sure that gelato remains an ancillary use. There's no way to determine that. And if there were, it would be very resource, impactful to the staff. So I think we should consider removing that condition.
Well, I would agree with that sentiment. I think it's an enforcement thing that we get into these, we back ourselves into these kind of weird corners where, we put a restriction on something knowing that it's almost impossible to enforce. So I would hope that my fellow commissioners would agree to remove that from the condition of approval. As far as the queuing situation goes, I have a mixed feeling on that, because I see the gelato store at Pepper Tree Lane and also South Swell have, especially the one at Pepper Tree Lane, extensive lines all the way down Pepper Tree Lane, spilling out on the Coast Highway. And we don't seem to be really doing anything about that. Or I don't know if other businesses, the saloon or the other restaurants closed now, but they don't seem to be complaining about it. But we're suggesting or conditioning this approval on making sure that there is no queuing outside the store, which I feel is probably not going to happen that way, especially on a busy weekend, and the ability to sell a cup or a cone of gelato in Front Row Center, Laguna Beach is probably going to be a very appealing thing to people who are coming to the stores. So, I guess we can leave it in there, but I feel it's, we're not doing anything about the other ice cream and gelato stores that are having the same situation happen. So I feel it's like placing another restriction on this business that we're not applying to the other ones in town. So, but I feel more strongly about the ancillary condition of approval. I think we should definitely strike that. But other than that, I'm in favor of the change.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Samantha, is the queuing condition, does that appear in other ice cream, pastry, dessert shops?
So queuing into the right-of-way is typically considered in another context. I haven't seen it yet in other ice cream establishments more specifically, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't become a standard if this was a growing concern with the community.
Okay, so they would be the first.
First that I'm aware of.
Okay, okay. That would appear to be unduly restrictive? No?
The planning commission could make that determination in the wisdom of the planning commission. Our office was, of course, consulted for all of these conditions. We believe if adopted as proposed, they would withstand legal challenge. However, you guys are not up here to, should make the decision based off of that. If you think it's a bad idea, you guys are free to take it away.
Yeah, it seems unduly restrictive and frankly a little foolish.
Well, I just feel like, if we're looking at these kind of things through a complaint driven only, then, why have that condition in there when, if it becomes a problem, then
you address it.
Then you address it, because apparently we're not enforcing anything at the other shops. So I feel like, I don't know.
I just don't know. I don't remember, like Southwell's the most recent one.
Right.
Whether or not it was a condition of approval. Yeah, so we don't.
I don't think it was.
Well, and then if it wasn't, then there's not an enforcement issue there, right? Because it wasn't a condition of approval. So now maybe we're trying to, to nip something in the bud so it doesn't become a problem, and we're allowing the director of community development to specifically review that compliance. I would agree with, condition 14 being, really kind of very difficult to
Right.
determine. And I wouldn't have a problem with striking that one, but I'm in favor of leaving the rest of them and having, at least have the director then has that ability to.
If it's complaint driven or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to fall on my sword on it. I'm more passionate about condition 14.
Yeah, and regarding Pepper Tree Lane, I agree that, if it backs up onto the sidewalk at Coast Highway,
Which it does.
But Pepper Tree Lane itself, I don't think I'm not sure if that's a public right of way, or if that's private property.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
It's private property problem.
Probably.
Well, why don't we do this? It seems like we're all in agreement on the application itself. There's no public concerns, and it's frankly questionable whether we have even the right under the current plan to make this restriction. So that seems unanimous. I would eliminate both restrictions. Like George, I'm not going to fall on my sword on it. The question is, do we want to have a vote amongst ourselves? It seems like we're unanimous on 14. Do we want to have a vote about removing the condition, the queuing condition?
It's 18 is the queuing one.
Correct. Or do we just leave it?
Like I say, I'm not gonna fall on my sword over it. If Commissioner Sadler feels it's best to leave it in place, as I said, I'm more interested in getting rid of anything that's going to cause staff to have to try to monitor, a condition of approval, which is number 14.
What I'm hearing from staff is they're not going to monitor it. It would be complaint driven, and by leaving it, it enables the city to do something about it if it actually becomes a problem.
Are you talking
And
about the queuing or?
I'm talking about the queuing,
Oh.
yeah, and this is a more strategic location than either the other two businesses, where they're not quite as upfront right on across from Main Beach.
Right.
So I think allowing the city to have the ability to do something if it became problematic. I have a hard time visualizing what they would do. It's like
Yeah.
you can't stand here in line.
But I just think that
but
it gives the director of community development a better ability to address it if it becomes an issue, right? If it's specifically written in there as a condition of approval, he can then say, you're in violation of this condition of approval, right? If it's not in there and he gets complaints about people queuing up on the sidewalk, and he goes to this particular business and says, hey, you've got a problem, people are queuing up in front, that owner then is very likely to say, compared to what about Southswell down there?
Right.
And then the director of community development is going to have a hard time selectively enforcing it for this business, but not that one.
I could visualize if it becomes a major obstruction to pedestrian traffic on the sidewalk of the city, being able to actually say the line has to be located along the edge of the building so it doesn't obstruct pedestrian traffic. This might enable that to occur more easily.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're unanimous on removal of condition 14. We'll leave in condition 18. Should somebody make a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
A second.
So what are we voting on?
So we're voting on approval of the application, removal of condition 14, leaving condition 18 as is.
Okay.
Commissioner Kellenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadler.
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Goldman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Congratulations. All right. Item 6.2, temporary use permit 2026-1290 and coastal development permit 2026-1291. Claire presenting for the city. Any disclosures? Okay.
Good evening. Item 6.2 is a request for a temporary use permit and coastal development permit for the continuation operation for the farmers market. The weekly farmers market has been in operation every Saturday in Lot 10 and portions of Lot 11. These lots are temporarily transferred into markets every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the market's been in operation since 1995 under a series of temporary use permits. Previously, there has been 2 temporary use permits that resulted in operational changes. The first one being TUP 10 -05, which increased the vendor count from 40 to 46. And then the second one is temporary use permit 19-4850, which increased the vendors that are heating up food from 1 to 4 vendors. So tonight, the request is to increase the maximum number of vendors from 46 to 58 vendors, which is an increase in 12 vendors. The number of food heating vendors will remain at 4, and the existing condition requiring 6 vendors to be reserved for Laguna Beach businesses will remain. And in addition, 2 booth spaces will be reserved for city's recreation department, resulting in a total of 60 booth spaces. This is the proposed site plan. So the vehicular access will continue from Laguna Canyon Road as it is today, and patrons and vendors will exit through Lot 11 onto the Forest Avenue, creating a one-way circulation. And the yellow blocks are the road barricades that are there to block out the farmers market boundaries so that no vehicles are entering into lot 10 during the operation. The aisle widths remain at 18 to 23 feet, which the fire marshal has approved. And every 10 booth, there is a 10 feet separation to meet the fire code. And there are 2 bathrooms off-site, one being at the Festival of the Arts, and then the second one being at the bus stop on Broadway Street. So the vendors have access to 2 bathrooms, not on the farmers market boundary, but off-site. Because the vendor participation varies week by week, this proposal that you have in front is representation of the maximum 60 vendor booths. There might be less, but it won't go over more than 58 vendor booths with the 2 city booths. So under the proposed TUP, vendors will be required to park at either their assigned booth space, as they are doing right now, or park at Lot 11, as conditioned by the police department. The 4 food heating booths are required to park at Lot 11. They cannot park within their booth space due to fire code. And as mentioned before, the circulation is one way entering from Laguna Canyon Road, as shown on the blue arrow, and exiting using the Forest Avenue of Lot 11. Although the proposed request is to increase the maximum number of permitted vendors, staff does not consider this an intensification of the use of the site, as the site use is still the same. The farmers market will continue to operate within its existing footprint on the same day during the same hours. And Public Works, Police, and Fire Department and building staff review the proposal and raise no concerns regarding the requested increase in vendor capacity. So with that, staff finds that the proposed project is consistent with the general plan, downtown specific plan, and the local coastal program as discussed in the staff report. If approved tonight, the temporary use permit will be renewed for an additional 3-year term with the proposed operational modifications. Staff's recommendation is to adopt resolution as conditioned and approve TUP 2026-1290 and CDP 2026-1291 and finding said action exempt from CEQA. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I have a question about the bathrooms. When last time I was there, I actually asked a couple people where, a couple of vendors, and they said you have to go to the lumber yard. And so it makes me wonder if it's well known that restrooms are available at the festival grounds, and do they actually open the gates at the festival ground on Saturday mornings and allow the public to enter the grounds and use the restrooms there?
Yeah, from my knowledge, the two mentioned bathroom locations are approved by the OC Health Department, and the OC Health inspectors go out there and they have to review the bathroom sites every year to ensure that vendors are being able to go there, and that's how they get their OC Health permit.
So the gates are open on Saturday mornings into the festival grounds.
According to the applicant, but if the applicant is here, yeah,
Okay,
maybe
we
he
can
can.
find out more
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Okay. And so since the footprint isn't changing, it means that the sites are getting smaller, basically.
That's correct.
Because if you're adding more and there's no bigger footprint, it means that some of the larger sites become smaller.
That's correct. Yes, there is more booths, but they are within the same boundaries as it is today.
And is the Orange County Farm Bureau, is that I don't know who that is. Is that, they're the vendor, they actually organize this, and are they a nonprofit or are they a profit?
They are a nonprofit. They're more like a managing company. They operate other farmers market throughout Orange County, and Laguna Beach is one of them.
Did you have you discussed with them bringing bathroom facilities onto the site?
Yeah, so we had a discussion about bringing 2 porta potties on sites, but their funding restricts them, and it's really the funding problem. And because when a porta potty is brought in, because their farmers market only happens once a week, so they have to bring it in and bring it out, and their setup and cleanup has to be done in 1 hour and has to be done by 1 p.m. every week. So it's according to the applicant,
Logistically
it's too
challenging.
costly.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So if there was a concert, if that was coming in and there were going to be 200 or 300 people at a concert, would they be required by the city to have porta potties brought in for a concert?
I believe so. But
Yeah, so through the chair, one of the distinguishing factors here is that the access is actually, excuse me, the access is actually intended for the vendors as opposed to just general public use. Members of the public can access the other publicly accessible spaces, but they truly are looking at making sure that vendors have a space to be able to wash their hands as they're preparing and distributing food or non-food products. So that's the intention there. It's really more of an employee item, and that's all per the building code and through also regulated through the healthcare agency. But there are 2 publicly accessible spaces, including the bus terminal and the Festival of Arts, though they are a little further than what would typically be required of having something on site.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on your question. By the way, I always wondered why all farmers markets, it seems there's never any porta potties. Now we know. The way this works, the Orange County Farm Bureau essentially rents the space from the city and then leases the individual stalls to the vendors. Is that how it works?
yes, that's how
Okay.
it works.
I have a question about the number of Laguna businesses. At the moment, there's 6. Was there any consideration given to increasing the number of Laguna businesses by the percentage of the overall increase? Or is that a question for the applicant?
That could be a
Probably a
question.
question
yeah.
of demand if there are there Laguna businesses.
Well,
around there?
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
And is there a maximum number of spaces that a vendor can occupy?
Yes, it has to be 10 by 10.
What's that?
10 feet by 10 feet.
No, but there's some vendors that have multiple spaces now. Some have 1, some look like they have 4. But I'll ask the applicant.
Right, it's at least 2.
So in reference to the spacing between the vendors, it's stated at a minimum of 18 feet and in some cases 20 feet. You know, I go to the farmer's market, you know, and I feel like there are certain vendors that there's a little bit of mission creep going on there where they're, you know, pushing signs out or adding more shade elements or whatever into the aisle space. I wonder if that's something that, you know, the vendors will need to be reminded that, you know, we have to keep a certain aisle spacing for, you know, public safety and also for the public's enjoyment, because it is a very popular thing. And there are times, especially with people with strollers and dogs and, multiple family members, that it gets pretty crowded in some areas there, especially the more popular vendors. So is anybody kind of paying attention to that, or is that again more for the applicant to discuss?
The applicant can add on, but I believe the fire marshal did, well, he's going to be doing site visits and he has done site visits. There's also going to be police monitoring, but that's probably more for parking, but they are conditioned to maintain these spaces as proposed.
All right, thank you.
That is one. So as currently proposed, the vendors themselves will park in parking lot 11, right? And parking lot 11 is a public parking lot. So was there any staff concern about that by having the vendors park there, they're displacing public spots from other public, patrons who might just want to use those spaces for their own?
Yeah, so with that, I mean, the vendors are not all required to park there if they can park within their vendor designated space, as I think most of them are doing. But per police department, they really want all the vendors in one space so they can monitor the parking situation a little bit better. But the farmers market has been going on since 1995, and we don't see that just because with 12 more vendors, it shouldn't create too much parking issue. And vendors were parking somewhere anyways before. We're just placing in lot 11 right now.
Okay. So you were saying, I thought earlier you said there was a police department issue with them parking in their vendor spaces. Are you saying that is allowed, that they can park if they can fit their vehicle in next to their vendor booth, that they can park in that area?
Yeah, so it's not all farmers market vendors that are not all of them are not allowed to park in there. Some still can, who can fit in there. But if they don't want to, they have to park in parking lot 11 per police. And the vendors that are heating up food, they cannot park in the designated booth space. They have to park in lot 11 because of fire code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shall we open up to the public applicant? You have 5 minutes to take if you like.
Good evening. My name is Casey Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of the Orange County Farm Bureau, and thanks for this opportunity to renew the TUP, and thank you to Claire for her help. This is
Word, market manager for Laguna Beach.
Meachy Wood has been a market manager for over 20 years now, as well as has been a farmer participating vendor in farmers markets as well. Jumping just kind of quickly to clarify some of the broader questions about Farm Bureau. We are a nonprofit. We're a membership organization, not too dissimilar to kind of like a chamber of commerce. Commercial farmers in Orange County. We were established in 1913. We're over 100 years old, always with the same mission and mandate to support and encourage agriculture as an industry in Orange County. As the commercial agricultural footprint in the county shrunk, 40 plus years ago, Orange County Farm Bureau opened the first certified farmers markets at the OC Fairgrounds in Costa Mesa. And we've been running and operating weekly certified farmers markets since that time, so for 45 plus years now. It is a revenue generator for us as a nonprofit, keeps our doors open, but our mission has remained the same, to support agriculture as an industry. A big part of what we do now is we do operate multiple farmers markets because we've been doing it for so long. And we're a large portion of the revenue obviously covers the cost of overhead, and we support youth agriculture education. So we make generous donations to Orange County 4-H and chapters, Orange County Future Farmers of America chapters at local. We've established scholarship endowment funds at local community colleges at Fullerton, CSU Fullerton, Saddleback, Mount San Antonio College, that kind of thing. So. And we give individual student scholarships to Orange County high schoolers who are pursuing degrees in agriculture at colleges and universities. So that's a little bit of background about Farm Bureau. Obviously, we've been running the Laguna Beach Farmers Market since 1995. So now we can kind of speak a little bit to some of the specifics and the questions of the market operations. The bathroom situation is, it's reviewed, obviously, and permitted and approved by county health. There is some language in the county that kind of stipulates us, within a certain amount of feet, but that is and remains kind of up to inspector kind of approval and discretion. And given that they've, the particulars of the lot, the environment, the location, the pageant masters being accessible, for the past number of years, they've approved that for vendor use. So, I think we would agree it's not 100% ideal, but it's workable and has worked for the vendors, and it's been approved by county health. The alternative to kind of the question around porta potties, which is kind of actually what we do at a number of our other farmers markets. In that case, though, the porta potties are basically set in place and remain there. And that's how financially it's feasible, because they stay in place and they just get serviced weekly. Whereas in this case, the information and the assumption was that we would not be able to have porta potties kind of located permanently on site, and having them delivered and removed every Saturday within a certain time frame becomes logistically and financially prohibitive. So,
how about the Laguna businesses? There's 6 designated spaces are those filled?
Yes,
Okay.
they've been filled.
Uh-huh.
There's a couple of them that would like to participate, so I would, tell them business license will be required for them to participate.
but do we not
But
have,
we don't.
do we have
we-
more than 6
Yeah.
Laguna residents
Yes.
actively participating?
Yes.
So you're saying there is additional interest beyond the 6? Okay. And,
But there's also more than 6 already participating.
oh, I see.
There's,
More than 6.
do we know approximately how many?
Probably like 10.
Okay. So you don't discriminate against
No.
Laguna? Okay. That's really the nature of my question.
Have Laguna business come
Mm-hmm.
and support the farmers market. And
Mhm.
I like to support the community to participate.
Mhm.
So if they say, I live in Laguna Beach, then I would say, great.
So it's just, I don't understand the details of it, but you essentially give a license to a vendor to occupy a space. Can a vendor request up to how many spaces can they request? I'm thinking of a couple of vendors that have, I don't know, 3 or 4, right? Is there a maximum, and how do you deliberate? How do you make those decisions?
Basically, ultimately, that decision would come down to the market manager. And there are a lot of factors that go into it, not least of which is that kind of product mix in the market, customer demand in the market, whether, how long that vendor has been there, and if they're reliable, and if they're providing a good product that's in high demand, and the nature of the business. There's internal kind of Farm Bureau policies where the priorities always go to farmers. We're a farm advocacy organization, so farmers are kind of naturally going to kind of go to the top of the line when it comes to decision making. We don't generally give kind of more than like 30 linear feet of kind of booth frontage. But obviously, and it's kind of like a farmer's market. We're coming together with, dozens of vendors, each with tents. It's a little bit modular. It's a little bit kind of a puzzle. Obviously, when you're doing it week after week, people have their assigned spots. But it's a little bit, you fit people in as best you can.
And just as a curiosity question, have the number of farmers dwindled or increased over, say, the last 5 years?
Made the same,
Uh-huh.
because I would replace it with a new farmer.
Mhm.
So it's more of selection of what kind of farmers I would like to bring in.
Mhm.
And I'll say that, the Laguna Beach is Farm Bureau is fortunate for that in the operation of the market, and given that it's a great farmers market. It has, you know, not, I think in 2025 and I think in this year, it's best of OC farmers market. It's gotten that new many times. So there's no shortage of farmers that want to participate in the Laguna market. So if a particular farm, you know, unfortunately goes out of business, it's pretty easily to fill the gap.
Do you have any trouble, Commissioner Dubin mentioned the aisle width creep, and I think that's true. It
Yeah.
certainly isn't maintained at 18 or 20. In some places it is, but other places.
Yeah, fully clear. And in this parking lot, because of the, you know,
Yeah.
in the circle and with the turns and stuff, it does become a little bit more of a challenge. And obviously sometimes, you know, vendors, you know, good naturedly put out an additional canopy on a hot sunny day. Just, you know, we're going to provide a little bit of shade, a little bit like a standing area for customers as they're walking through. Yeah, that is something that we can pay more attention to and more intentionally keep the aisleways clear. That's always been understood to be a condition and you know, a matter of public safety when, you know, maintaining access for emergency vehicles and emergency personnel. So we would never really allow it to kind of creep too much to where it was obviously this is becoming a problem. But yeah, we certainly can do better at kind of making sure that we're keeping the aisleways clear.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I mean, a number of the tenants aren't farm, you know, there's essential oils and all kinds of interesting things, you know, there. I mean, do you collate or, you know, the mixture, or are the tenants that are not farmers there because you've run out of farmers? In other words, I mean, do you purposefully have it be not all food, you know, and produce to create a mix, or is that just a function of not having enough food and produce?
It wouldn't be a function of not having enough. It would be a function of wanting to create a desirable mix for.
Right. So you're doing it on
customers.
purpose. So there could be so you do say no to some farmers. What does the percentage actually is local production? I mean, how much actually comes from Orange County versus outside of Orange County? Do you have
I would say, I mean, the actual production of Orange County grown produce is probably fairly small. Do you?
Bruman Farm is the only one that's Orange County, and Rosewood, no. Bruman Boys and Bruman Farm are Orange County.
There's just really just a couple that are Orange County. The rest are
Yeah.
extra.
Rest are San Diego, Nipomo, Riverside.
Buellton.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Does Orange County Farm Bureau have sister organizations that do LA County or San Diego County, or are you strictly Orange County?
Orange County Farm Bureau handles strictly Orange County, but every county has its Farm Bureau office. And we're part of the California Farm Bureau Federation, which is
So
part of the American.
you
Farm
all
Bureau
go up
Federation.
the tree to the same organization?
We do, but we're all like individual nonprofit grassroots.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, open it up for public comments. Anybody wishes to speak, please limit to 3 minutes, state your name and sign the ledger.
Do I need to?
Yeah, please come up and state your name.
I'm a food vendor. I'm sorry. I'm a food vendor and I'm just concerned about, I'm not gonna be able to park behind my booth, right? Because the fire department code or like, can we park in the lot 11 as a vendor? Yes, okay. Do I need to pay for those hours that I need to be there? Yes.
Yes,
okay.
through the chair. So this is a time for you to be able to speak and direct your questions and your information to the commission, though we can go ahead and respond to those after you've completed your testimony. Okay.
Okay.
And for the record, please state your name and sign the
Thank you.
sheet.
So sorry.
So-
Sylvia Monreal.
And if you could sign up on the clipboard there on the
Thank
table.
We
Thank
love, we love your empanadas, by the way.
You need to be shorter.
Yeah, I know, right? Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Nick Aronoff, Laguna Beach resident and farmers market patron. I thought it was a great presentation by city staff, and you guys asked great questions. And our farmers market, as the applicant said, is a popular one. It's famous, but one thing I didn't hear is like, how are the vendors doing? I think it's really important. We don't want to water down a lot of these businesses, especially the local ones, if they're not doing well. And I also didn't hear which specific businesses that we were lacking, that by extending it to 12, like I want to make sure it's clear. We need to keep the farmers market. It's a great thing. It's a great asset to the city. It really helps boost sales and business in town. But to add another 12 vendors, and it's also a loss of parking, what businesses are they looking at adding? I didn't hear that in the application. So I thought that was interesting, that there wasn't like, hey, we really need XYZ. We need to add 12 more vendors. And like you guys pointed out, a lot of them take up a lot of space. Some weeks there's spots that are completely empty. So I think in making sure, in, like Commissioner Witten said, making sure that there are local businesses as well that are taken into account, because we don't want to water down the existing farmers market with 12 more slots that could really hurt a lot of these businesses that are struggling. Food are very thin margins. So trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Call me Thor. I came to Laguna Beach Farmers Market for 6 months before I even moved here. This market is how I connected with the community. To me, this isn't just a place to buy chemical-free, life-sustaining food. It's where we support local farmers, where neighbors connect, and where we preserve something rare, direct access to men and women who grow our food. Today, we're being asked two very different matters. The first one is continue the farmers market. Absolutely. I honor the Farmers Bureau for what they're doing. I love the nonprofit focus behind it. It's a no-brainer. Everybody wants that market to be exactly where it's at. The second thing is expanding the farmers market from 46 to 60 spaces, including 2 city booths, and now starting to charge people when they come to gather their food. Those are 2 separate policy decisions that should be treated separately. If the goal is to give the market management more operational flexibility for better solutions for vendor parking and loading, I think we should support their needs in solving that matter. Absolutely. Give them whatever they want. We love them. This market already operates in a finite space. Parking is already very limited. You get there at 8 a.m., it's packed already. Before increasing capacity, we should ask whether this expansion truly serves the people who depend on this market every Saturday. The staff report concludes that the additional booths can fit within the existing footprints and are not expected to, rather than will not, create significant parking and circulation impacts. We should be shown exactly how they reach that conclusion, so we can understand their analysis. I also question whether the city booth spaces belong inside the farmers market at all. Every booth is valuable community service for the people. Every city booth is one less opportunity for a farmer or vendor to serve this community. If the city wishes, it has public property 10 feet away from the farmers market. They can set up as many booths as they want, a circus if they want to, instead of occupying scarce market space on Saturdays. The staff report also discusses parking rate adjustments, meaning charging people when they come to support local farmers market, and that's contrary to the purpose of a community farmers market. The market's central location is what makes it successful. It's walkable, it's familiar, it's become a part of the fabric of Laguna Beach. We must protect this market like we protect our one and only hospital with our lives. The people of Laguna Beach are not asking for more. We just want to protect what already works. All of you people watching out there, put your words in writing. Go ahead and let these guys know in writing. Otherwise, you consent to whatever it is that they decide on. Approve the continuation of the farmers market, but let's consider the expansion, city booths, and parking taxation as separate discussion, each judged on their own factual merit. We honor the farmers market management, yeah, Any additional operational flexibility that is needed for the vendors, let's solve that problem directly instead of assuming a 30% expansion is the only answer. Let's put the people, the farmer, and the future of this market first. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public comments. Were there any questions there?
Chair, I would make sure that, the applicant does get rebuttal time.
That,
Okay,
that's what I was just asking.
okay.
Were there any questions there that you wish to make a response? Oh, that's right, because closing it prevents them from doing that. I'm rusty at this. Okay.
I'll just no, I mean, this is the process of the TUP is and the prior TUP was a few years ago. And so this is got a little bit more of an update of the language to what is currently kind of what the current environment of the farmer's market is. So if you're envisioning like you went out last Saturday at the market and walked around, and then next week or this coming Saturday, you're going to walk out and there's going to be 12 more vendors and they're all squashed in like sardines. That's not the case. This was kind of more an update to the TUP language to what we know that basically how the market, the farmers market as it is currently operating, what it can sustain, what the footprint can allow, and basically what it's already been doing.
Yeah, I actually thought the question of is more capacity good was an interesting one. I hadn't really considered that, whether the capacity is more, yeah.
Yeah, we're not trying to shove more in than what is there right now. It's more a bit more of a kind of an update to the TUP language to what is there now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know in the past, like a lot of vendors could park, right behind where they have their booth. Is that not the case anymore? Because a lot of them have, when they start running out of stuff, it's all inside their vans or their trucks or whatever. So
no, our understanding is that's not going to change. That basically all the vendors that can park behind their booth within the market boundaries will and will remain there. The kind of really the only kind of substantial change to that was when we were talking about wanting to talking about the hot food vendors and allowing like making sure that we're in alignment with the fire marshal and the police on reheating and heating food. That was a new condition that they wanted to put on that those vendors who are heating food would not be allowed to park their vehicle next to the tent for flammability concerns.
Right.
So that would be a new condition that wasn't necessarily
there before. Okay. And maybe this is for staff. Rec department, they're requesting 2 spaces. So why?
That was required by the recreation department. I think they just want to reserve 2 spaces there just in case they have any informational booth, but it's not guaranteed that they're going to participate every 2 weeks. This is just like a reserve space. If they don't use it, then I don't see why not the farmers market can use it, but it's just too reserved.
Why are they now coming along and wanting to? I mean, I know we have the CERT program guys are down there occasionally. There's already at least 1 or 2 city informational style booths that are occupying the space. But I mean, I could understand maybe 1, but why are they requesting 2?
It's really just it was just conditioned by recreation department when we routed it over. They really just wanted to reserve at least 2 spaces. I'm assuming maybe they could have 2 informational booths at the same time, but I think that's the max that they're going for. I don't think I don't think they're going to be there every week, but I think that was just a good reservation that they wanted to make.
And when they're not there, it goes back into the pool, or it's unused.
Yes.
Unused. Okay.
So just to clarify, these 2 spaces that would be city specific would be above and beyond what it would be authorized as part of the temporary use permit. So it is all part of the same consideration, but the idea is to be able to provide an avenue for recreation to be able to identify what types of programming we have, any types of community events, services, and really have an avenue of being able to connect with this large community that's coming in for the farmers market more specifically. So this is not taking away from the farmers market booths. This would be 2 additional on top of what were already considered as a part of this application.
I think a better location for that would be in front of the city manager's office on the lawn.
Hmm.
I mean, that way you're not taking, you're not
Yeah.
taking up space at all in the parking lot, which is kind of prime space for all the vendors, so has that been considered at all?
So my understanding here is that it's not displacing any of the additional vendors that were
Okay.
proposed, but that is something that if we needed to go back to the drawing table, that could be considered.
Yeah, because in theory, it is reducing capacity by 2 booths.
Yeah, and if they're not there, then there's 2 spaces that are, potentially could have been used by somebody else. I just think that, the rec department, could set up on the lawn, in front of the city manager's office, and that would be fine.
What was the applicant? What do you think about it?
I mean,
experience.
we work.
Can you get up close to the microphone or just pull it towards you if you want?
I've been there for 14 years now, and occasionally when there isn't city spots, I kind of use it.
Okay.
So, but if they're there, I'm fine with that. But I don't know when they're purchased. So it's always the last minute.
I mean, it kind of goes back a little bit to kind of the nature of the farmers markets and the fact that it's tents if we work with who's there on the week. And obviously, like we need, she has a great idea week to week precisely of who is going to be there and who is not. It's not a willy-nilly thing more broadly, but like if she doesn't know, 2 weeks beforehand whether or not those city booths are going to be used, even on the day of, she can do a little bit of shuffling. So, I mean, we appreciate, I mean, it would give her a bit more leeway within the market if those 2 city spaces were located elsewhere, but neither are we saying that or even requesting to take them off. We can see that there's, value to the city. If there's a desire from the city agency to have them there, then we're willing to work with that.
Okay.
I just think it would be something to consider to put them on the lawn instead of in the parking.
Do we know anything about the history of the city's use at the market? Have they always been there?
And the police department are always every 2 weeks or every first or the second week that I noticed are there. Maybe twice a month with the water district and the police department.
And how long have they had those 2 spaces?
How long? Like till the market hours.
No, I'm sorry, how many years?
Oh, since I've been going there
Okay.
for 14 years now. That's
Okay.
If I could add just one more thing, just to kind of get it on the record and speaking to one of the concerns about the employee, the market vendors who must park in lot 11. Just want to, if there can be discussion with whatever relevant city agency, some kind of reduced parking fee for market vendors during the market hours. If they're paying kind of full regular.
What is the current fee?
0.
No, the current parking fee for lot 11.
0.
Oh, there is no fee. There's no
No
parking?
fee. Yeah.
Oh,
I've been giving Orange Farm Bureau vendor parking, so the police department knows that they're Farm Bureau employees. So that's how they've been.
So is this item actually adding a parking fee for the vendors? That's what it sounds like.
Jeremy doing it? Oh, okay.
Well, the metered parking right now is $7 an hour. So it's if you think of somebody getting there at 6 and leaving at 1,
Well,
that's
but I've heard they just said it's 0. So I'm confused as to what the parking fee is and if this is changing any of status quo.
So I'll go ahead and make an attempt at answering this. So no prior TUPs have authorized the waiving of the fees. However, it appears that there was some deliberation in years past about doing that. So parking, The parking fee was not necessarily enforced. And so with the review of this application, the police department and parking, they're truly looking at bringing it into conformance with all of our other public parking spaces. So this is just, we're not going through and saying now there is a fee. We're saying it's the same as everybody else. If you're using the public parking supply, you're paying for your use of the spaces.
Correct. There may have been an informal arrangement that we know who the vendors are and whether that was identified or how, and we in the city somewhat, I don't want to say look the other way because that means that, instead it was basically just a, hey, we kind of see what's going on here. We're not going to enforce this as my colleague to the left explained. This is now kind of, I don't want to say cleaning it up, but making it clear that, yeah.
For resident shoppers, permits are good in this lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
My understanding is yes, it's going to have the same parking requirements in the space. Yes.
So we're adding a condition that would require.
The condition is really in compliance with what our parking regulations are already. It's making it very clear that vendors that are heating food on site, that they must park there, right? They don't have the ability to park behind their stalls as they might have in the past. And for anyone else that is either a vendor that can't fit in their space or a patron of the farmer's market, that they are responsible for covering their own parking costs. So it's not establishing a new parking rate. It's making it very clear who is subject exactly. Yes, we're going through and clarifying.
It's going to end up costing them probably about $60 to comply.
If there's enforcement.
If there's enforcement, which.
Well, if they can't park behind their stall,
Well,
which that would cost them nothing.
Right, I get that.
Or they have to park in that lot because they're having
Hot food,
a heat source in their booth.
Right.
So it seems the majority of the vendors will be able to park, by their space.
What
and
percentage
they're
of the
not gonna
vendors
pay.
park at their space?
Most of them do park, but some have employees
Mhm.
that'll come,
Right.
and those are the people that might.
But the spaces are 10 by 10 and a car is not going to fit in a 10 by 10 space.
Well, somewhat, the standard, measurement for, yes, 10 by 10, some have slightly longer than that again. But also some of the, some of the farms bring employees because the farms are the kind of like the larger vendors in the lot. There's not room for 2 cars behind the booth.
Some will offload and park outside to use the space.
Okay.
It'd be nice to see some consideration for, the vendors that cannot park there to at least either have a reduced or a waived fee,
A vendor pass.
a vendor pass or whatever.
Correct. And, I do believe that, actually, I shouldn't say that. I believe it's probably outside of the purview of the Planning Commission to formally waive any parking requirement.
Understand.
That being said, if that is the direction of the Planning Commission, to at least direct myself or my colleague to the left to reach out to the city manager's office or someone else, the police department, to see if there's any, options there, we can do that. But I don't believe, my advice to you is this body cannot formally waive any city fee or any city parking requirement. You guys can't direct us to look into it. So thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I can also add context. The condition 41 also sets the city to have the right to establish like a vendor-specific parking permit. And I believe Casey is already in conversation with someone from Recreation to start that program. So there is something in the works right now. It's just not established.
Okay.
One of the questions was, how are the vendors doing? And by adding more vendors, is it creating more competition and could hurt the health of the economics of the vendors?
The short answer to that second question is no. The first answer is the vendors are, I guess, or I'll speak more specifically, the market as a whole is better than ever. Since I came into my position in 2008, and endeavor to kind of get a better handle on the data around the farmers markets and how they're performing. So I've been tracking as part of how the market operates. The Farm Bureau kind of like leases the space. We operate, we recruit, and accept applications and review and approve vendors to participate. They pay a fee for that, and as part of the data collection, on the honor system, the vendors report total gross sales at the market. And so we're able to basically come away every Saturday with a reported total gross sales of the market. And since 2008, the trend line is very clearly upward. In the last couple months, we've hit reported new total gross sales records. So for the market as a whole, now there are different elements that go into that. Maybe products are just getting more expensive, and so that's driving it. But I don't think necessarily that's.
Well, there's an element of seasonal pricing.
Yeah.
For the non-residents, it seems like the prices in the summer, some of the booths gouge a little bit.
No, prices have definitely gone up there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so do we want to go through commissioner comments? It seems like everybody's asked their questions, but
May want to close the public hearing first.
yeah, thank you. We'll close the public hearing.
I'll start. I think it's an amazing, great thing, especially here in Laguna, to have an alternative place to buy fresh produce and other products there. So I've personally been going there forever, and I've been missing some lately, but I always appreciate the vendors that are there. So, there's some that I miss who aren't there anymore, and that's just the nature of things, But anybody who goes there has their favorite, vendors that they frequent when they are down there. So I don't think the increase of spaces is going to have any kind of economic impact on the current people who provide product down there. So I would, I'm just going to make a suggestion potentially that if whoever is requesting the spaces for the rec department, that they consider putting those on the lawn. But that's not a make or break deal for me right now. So I'm very supportive of the farmers market. I'm glad that it's surviving, and hope to see it there for many, many years to come. So I will be approving the temporary use permit.
Okay, I support the application. In fact, it's just a cleanup job of verifying what is actually now in practice. I can make the findings for the temporary use permit and the coastal development permit findings. I don't think we should. I think we should support the vendor's permit. But other than that, I don't feel we need any restrictions.
Well, I'm supportive as well. The farmers market's a great thing to have in town. It's started in '95, right around the same time that my family moved here, so it's always been here. I understand the applicants. It sounds like the main desire is to have a little bit more flexibility in the future, to the possibility to expand. The expansion, from 46 to 60 spaces or whatever, hard for me to imagine, after walking through that farmer's market a number of times, exactly how that would all squeeze in there. But I'll take your word for it that it's possible. Regarding the city booths, I got confused amongst the discussion where we kept focusing on the recreation department throughout the part of the staff report that I was reading. It just kept referring to them as city booths that I assumed could be used by any city department. So, and again, that's I think that's a good thing to have it there. I think that's the way it's operated now for many years. They're not asking for more city booths than currently are there. They're two. They're by having them right amongst the market, which has for the most part a large local resident patronage of it, and it gives the city the opportunity to get the word out about multiple things. There's a lot of discussion often where people say we had no idea that the city was planning on doing this, or with this we were caught off guard by that, or whatever. They're saying that again get the word out there early on some of the important city issues and projects, or the CERT people or emergency things or fire safety or whatever they want to do. And so I'm supportive of that. And I think it's important to have it right there in the area where it's highly noticeable. Yes, of course, the city could set up their own booths right in front of City Hall or in front of the city manager's office, but I don't think it would necessarily get as much noticeability and reach to the public as it would if it's in there. Regarding the parking issue, that sounds like it's really pretty much should be and is out of our hands. That's not something that we really can decide. Where vendors have been parking in paid parking spaces, city paid parking spaces, it sounds like there's been some sort of informal off the books arrangement where the city has looked the other way regarding enforcement of those meters during that time. Whether or not that's really fair is, I think, a question. Those are paid parking spaces that everybody else, normally would have to pay for. Some of us city residents have shoppers permits, which would allow us to park in those spaces without having to feed the meter, although we're paying for those shopping permits from the city. And the idea of, if I was to go down there and be looking for a spot for myself and a bunch of spaces were all taken up by somebody who's not paying anything, well, one, is that fair to me as a resident? And is it fair to the city in terms of its revenue sources, into parking is a lot. Now, I agree that that could add up, if somebody's having to be there for multiple hours and they're paying, our parking rate fees, which keep going up every single year and have gotten, pretty high. So, I think the most we could really do regard that was just making an informal suggestion that the city council, look into that further to decide whether or not they want to do anything special there. But, again, that would be difficult to do. And then also the way the resolution 41 is written, it's already saying that it's given some option already where it says that they should either, pay the typical daily meter rate or whatever, or hourly meter rate, or purchase a city-owned business employee parking permit. I have no idea, what that expense is, but that, if somebody's being is constant, it's always here at this farmer's market every weekend, maybe that's a consideration for them to consider just buying that business or employee parking permit. Or again, the city, if they council wants to look at it further and come up with some other plan. But, reducing the rate or anything like that, you'd have to provide them with some sort of placard or something where they would just be paying nothing or paying the regular rate, because you can't adjust their hourly rate on these meters or anything like that. So, but other than that, I'm fully supportive of it and glad the farmers market is here, and glad that you'll maybe have the ability to have that flexibility to add as necessary.
Yeah, I'm not going to add a whole lot to that. I think we all support the farmers market, and it sounds like this is just a means for you to have more flexibility in how to curate the space, because you can't jam much more in it. So you're just going to be able to move things around with a little bit better. I don't think we know enough about the parking. I think it's your job to go lobby for special parking passes or whatever. And it sounds like you're already working on that. So I would leave that to you. The only thing I would suggest is, and maybe I just missed it, but I would put up some signage. Not that I'm hung up on the bathroom thing. It sounds like I am, but I obviously I was in stress while I was there. So, and again, people didn't seem to know that there were restrooms across the street that were available and open, because that place is closed up most of the time. So I would suggest you add a little signage, to address, where people can go.
Or the bathroom for the public? Or
Yes, for the bathroom for the public.
It's usually, we tell them the bus stop, because there is an event at the Festival of Arts. So
the festival isn't available for the public.
but it's available for the farmers.
Oh, it's just for the farmers.
Yes.
Okay, but not the public.
Yes, but sometimes there's some security guards will say no to. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is, they either say we're market patrons, so you should be allowed, but they will say no to it. So that's where,
A miscommunication.
yes, with the security
security
guards. And sometimes the farmers are up at 2 a.m. on Saturday. By the time they get there, they already had 3 cups of coffee by 6 o'clock. So while I'm, getting older, you need to go to the bathroom at 4 hours. I need that bathroom to be open, guaranteed.
It sounds like there's an issue there that needs to be resolved, both for the vendors.
They are, but there's always one security guard that will say, oh no, we have a special event. And this special event sometimes doesn't start till 1 o'clock. And this guy is there at 6 o'clock in the morning saying no.
Maybe
So-
to communicate with the Festival of Arts folks.
That's what I need to do?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
I think that we can, as part of our motion, add suggestions, suggest that the city council consider parking reductions for the vendors. Suggest that the city council make city staff try to coordinate some discussions between the city staff and the Festival of Arts to make sure that they're aware that this is what's supposed to be happening. Because that's important, that, these particularly the vendors who have to wash their hands and make sure they're maintaining sanitary conditions, have to have access to to restrooms and to be able to wash their hands.
Right.
So there's got to be, that's, I think we could just suggest that there efforts be made to better coordinate that.
Right.
And I would still suggest signage, even if now it's a lot longer walk than I thought. It's not very convenient to walk all the way down there, but I would still provide that information.
I heard somebody, I think it was one of the traffic crossers, tell somebody to go, they asked where the restroom was, they told them to go to Whole Foods.
Yeah, well, they, what I heard was lumberyard, and I don't think that's fair for the merchants to do that. So anyway,
Okay.
I'm supportive, so keep going.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the, as well. It's hard not to be supportive of the farmer's market. I'm not going to reiterate any of the good comments that were made. Why don't we go for a motion?
Okay, well, I'll take a crack at it. Adopt a resolution 2026-1290 approving temporary use permit 2026-1290 and coastal development permit 2026-1291 and finding said action exempt from CEQA.
Want to make any statement about those other considerations for city council to?
Yeah, and just to suggest that at least the communication with the Festival of Arts and the farmers market to have clarity with the use of the restrooms, and that potentially council could look into either a special parking permit or rate for the vendors who have to park in the public parking lot.
Second.
Commissioner Kellenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Goldman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. All right. You want to take a 5-minute break? Yes. Okay, so let's reconvene at 7:45. Yeah, and let the record show the benefit of Commissioner Kellenberg, who apparently had a
Well, no, I had already had my 2.
wasn't a lot of opposition.
No, no.
That's the way in.
I think maybe they just didn't. Yeah, I know. This is like a nothing burger.
So we reconvene. Design review 2026-1541, applicant City of Laguna. Ulysses making the presentation. Any commissioner disclosures?
I met with the city engineer, so.
Yeah, I met with the applicant as well.
Me too. Okay.
Good evening, Chair Goldman and Commissioners. My name is Ulysses Escalona, Senior Project Manager with Public Works and Utilities Department. Joining me tonight are Russ Berholz and Rachel Struglia with Dudek, the city's design engineer and environmental consultant for the project. Tonight, staff is requesting approval of Design Review 2026-1541 for the North Coast Interceptor Reach 5 Replacement Project, along with adoption of the final initial study, mitigated declaration, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program pursuant to CEQA. I'll begin with some background on the project. The North Coast Interceptor, or NCI, is the city's primary wastewater transmission pipeline serving Laguna Beach and Emerald Bay. Reach 5 is a critical 1-mile segment between Country Club Drive near Coast Highway and the Sakwa Coastal Treatment Plant. This section was installed in the late 1970s and has reached the end of its useful service life. Replacing Reach 5 will improve the long-term reliability of the city's wastewater system while also providing operational redundancy during maintenance and emergency operations. The requested actions by motion on Resolution 2026-1541 are adopt the final ISMND and MMRP pursuant to CEQA, approve Design Review 2026-1541. Design review is required because the project includes above-ground utility structures, work within environmentally sensitive areas, grading exceeding 20 cubic yards, and clearing and restoration of native vegetation. The Commission considers and adopts the final ISMND and MMRP before acting on the design review. The Coastal Development Permit is a separate action pending before the California Coastal Commission. This slide illustrates the project alignment and proposed construction methods. The project begins near the intersection of Coast Highway and Country Club Drive, follows the Aliso Canyon corridor through the ranch property, and continues to the Sakwa Coastal Treatment Plant. To minimize environmental and construction impacts, the project utilizes 3 construction methods depending on site conditions. So we have open trench construction, horizontal directional drilling, rehabilitation of the existing pipeline through slip lining. The existing Reach 5 pipeline is approximately 1 mile long and currently operates as a single transmission pipeline with limited operational redundancy. A portion of the pipeline is also located within Aliso Creek, which presents operational challenges. Replacing this infrastructure will improve system reliability and provide operational redundancy. The proposed project includes installation of approximately 5,200 linear feet of twin 18-inch HDPE pipelines, rehabilitation of approximately 900 linear feet of the existing pipeline using slip lining. The project also includes a connection and diversion vault, an isolation valve vault, and air release valve assemblies necessary for system operation and maintenance. And again, construction will utilize a combination of open trench installation, horizontal directional drilling, and slip lining based on site conditions and constraints. The majority of the project will be constructed below ground. As a result, design review is limited to the permanent above ground improvements, including the before mentioned connection and diversion vault, the isolation valve vault, and air release valve assembly shown on the slide. So these are standard utility infrastructures that the city has used successfully at other wastewater facilities. They have been selected to be compatible with the surrounding environment while providing safe access for operation and maintenance. Staff evaluated the project against the applicable design review requirements of the Laguna Beach Municipal Code and determined that the project satisfies all required findings. The supporting analysis is provided in the staff report. This project provides several long-term benefits, including improved system reliability, reduced risk of sanitary sewer overflows, operational redundancy, and restoration of disturbed areas following construction. Environmental review concluded that with implementation of the identified mitigation measures, all potential significant environmental impacts would be reduced to less than significant levels. The city, as lead agency, prepared the final ISMND and MMRP in accordance with CEQA. The draft ISMND was circulated for public review. Comments received were addressed in the final document, and staff recommends adoption of the final ISMND and MMRP. The MMRP provides the framework for implementing, monitoring, and verifying all mitigation measures throughout construction. These measures will be implemented and monitored all throughout construction. Throughout project development, the city coordinated extensively with regulatory agencies, utility partners, property owners, and public agencies regarding easements, access, construction, long-term operations. This coordination has been an important part of advancing the project to its current design. During the CEQA review process, staff carefully considered the comments received and, where feasible, incorporated refinements to reduce construction impacts. These include the use of temporary sound enclosures, scheduling construction near the ranch at night to minimize daytime disruptions, and locating staging areas away from nearby homes. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission by motion adopt Resolution 2026-1541 to adopt the final ISMND and MMRP and approve Design Review 2026-1541 for the North Coast Interceptor Reach 5 replacement project. That concludes my presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Ken.
Why is the California Coastal Commission the body that would give out a coastal development permit instead of us?
The existing pipeline has a coastal development permit, and when we approach them, they want to take the authority to amend the existing development permit.
Correct. And just to add to that, for certain large infrastructure and potentially environmentally sensitive projects, that's not unique. Oftentimes when the CDP is issued by the Coastal Commission, they will say, hey, any amendment to this must come back to us irrespective of any subsequent future certified LCP like the city has, or so on and so forth. So it's a good question. But something like it's not necessarily atypical in this instance.
Okay, because the staff report just said because it's in the coastal zone. I'm like, well, most of Laguna's in the coastal zone, so you know. But, and well, just to clarify, I mean, this proposed new pipelines are following pretty much the same path as the existing one, correct? I mean, it would seem, you know, here's a project that existing sort of, and it's just being fixed and upgraded. I don't understand exactly why there would be a lot of additional environmental scrutiny over this. It's not a brand new project.
So on the screen, the magenta line, that's the current alignment of the existing Reach 5 pipeline. Our new pipeline is shown in the different colors. So part of it is open trench. Once we go through the ranch resort, we'll be, going north up to the valet area where they have their practice driving range. So that goes, it's a different alignment from that point. Russ, anything? So it's not necessarily the same alignment.
Okay, so the location of the actual pipeline stuff is going to vary from what it is right now.
And we're also pushing as far away from the creek as we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other real question I had at this point was, I understand why, but they're saying that, this a section that's closest to the ranch is going to require nighttime construction to avoid disruption to the ranch. And so you're going to end up having this nighttime construction that's going to require, special lighting, and I would imagine is going to generate some noise. And whereas, that portion of the project, I think, is not necessarily immediately adjacent to where the actual hotel rooms are. Are they? Is there, concern about the impact to the hotel guests being disturbed by the construction in the middle of the night?
So we're working closely with the ranch. So this area, the proposal is, think of it as a, sound enclosure. So the contractor will be working inside of it to minimize, echoes and noise. And then working with the ranch resort, they are working with us to move guests to the other side while this is happening. So we're working closely with them once we get into it.
And what's the estimated time frame for this whole project for once construction commences to when it would be complete?
So the entire length of the project is estimated at 17 to 18 months. And it'll all happen in phases. So one area will see, a month or two. And then as the train pushes forward, the operation is excavate, lay the pipe, backfill, and then keep pushing forward. We won't be sitting in one location, longer than needed.
Okay, and the last thing I was thinking about was, within the last, few years, we had a previous project come before us that was in the same general area. And does this tie into that project, or are these two completely separate things?
So the project you mentioned is the Saucos Water District Lift Station 2 project that's currently in construction. We do have a connection to their system. It's currently it's almost complete. So once that once that project is out of the way and we come right after, our new pipelines, one of them will connect to this intertie. So that allows us to divert flows to Saucos Water District in case of an emergency or we need to make a repair. And then vice versa, they'll be able to switch flows from their system over to our system in case of an emergency. So it's flexibility between both the city and Saucos Water District.
Okay. And the only other thing, when I was looking into the coastal development permit and asking about that, I noticed that application was made in January 28th of 2025. And here we are, in August of 2026. Is that typical? Is that the lag time for the Coastal Commission these days?
We are hearing it's about 6 months before we get a hearing date with Coastal. What also, during that time frame, what took time is negotiations with OC Parks. The area on the top right corner of the screen, that's all within OC Parks land. So we spent time going back and forth with them on, easements, us installing a vault in that area, impacts to them.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And then we just resubmitted to Coastal last week. So we're hoping that it doesn't take 6 months to get a hearing date.
Okay. Good luck.
About a quarter of a mile of this is going through a mountain, right? It's drilling through a mountain. Is there any blasting that's being anticipated or?
Russ Burkholz, Principal Project Manager with Dudek. No, absolutely not. No blasting. The technology is horizontal directional drilling. It's very similar to how oil wells were drilled, are still drilled today. And they just do it in a directional format horizontally. In this case, it'll be going under the mountain, going down roughly 80 to 100 feet, even below where they're starting from. So it'll be well below the ground, and then come back up in the near that little driving range area at the ranch.
And the noise implications of that, or it might even be less noisy, right?
It's
Yeah.
well, it's mostly silent actually. You won't even hear it, or you won't even hear it unless you're next to the drilling machine in the fairway of whatever hole it is in the golf course behind, well away from the resort itself.
So when you're working at night, are you working all night?
Well, drilling? No. They'll work in shifts. Not in shifts. They'll work a normal operation for the drilling operation. It will take, let's say, a week or two to get the pilot bore. It's done in phases. So they drill a small hole, the whole length.
I guess I'm really talking about the open trench nighttime operation.
Okay, yeah, that's a different situation. Sorry.
I guess I'm just wondering how noisy is it, how late at night, and you have this sort of noise structure. Does it, what kind of decibels, are you generating with this noise structure? Or there must be some specifications or studies you've done on that.
Rachel, did we get into that?
There was some in the mitigated negative deck.
70?
70.
Well, there were some that were in the low 50s, and at the height was a little over 80.
No, it's not too bad.
Yeah, we did study that. Sorry, Rachel Strulia from DUDEC, the environmental consultant assisting the city with this. And that was what led to a fairly complex mitigation measure with the acoustical shrouding that has to meet certain noise criteria in order to fully mitigate the noise at night. And essentially think of it like it's a box that they're going to build with the shrouding around that, and that will move as the trenching moves so that it's fully covering the work as it moves along the alignment. The same for the lights. The lights are going to have to kind of be inside that, box in order to not have, major light spill happening during night. Yeah.
And then my last question is that on the structures over above ground structures that are in open space, which is most of it, is there any opportunity to vary the color? So away from just the kind of gray color that was indicated.
That's an option. We can look at dark green. We can change colors.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I want to continue the questioning about the open trenching and doing it at night underneath those condominiums. From what I understood from reading the reports, with the mitigation, the noise level will be 70 dBA. Is that right? Even with the shrouding? It varies, but,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have to look up the exact decibels, but the whole reason why that mitigation is constructed the way it is so that it meets the city's nighttime noise threshold. And it's sort of complicated, right? Because it does, to some extent, hinder the ability to move faster through the construction, right? Because now they have to build this shroud that completely covers the construction. And that's why that mitigation measure is so lengthy, because it's actually specifying the thickness and the material of that shroud that has to be built around the construction. So yes, the whole intent is to mitigate it below the city's nighttime.
which is
ordinance.
70.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Okay,
offhand,
so
but
it
yeah.
meets that requirement.
Yes.
Now, where is the trench in relation to the Country Club Drive, the entry drive? This first section, between Coast Highway, the open trench section.
So
And I mean, my end question is, and why can't this be done during the day, just for the same reasons that at night, how are people, I mean, it's going to be noisy.
on the screen, so closer to Coast Highway, we're off to the side of the road. So there's a small parkway. It's all DG, so we'll be trenching through there. Once we approach the stop sign, that's when we go into the street, and then we're trenching right through the center of the street. The trench is 8 feet wide, so it's taking up pretty much the full width of the street. To answer the question of daytime versus nighttime, we've met multiple times with the Ranch Resort and their owner and management. They're extremely concerned if we operate during the day, especially in this segment. That's the red on the screen. That's between Station 21 and Station 27. So that's the road that goes up to the valet area. If we remove that from them, their concern is delivery trucks. They receive constant deliveries at the resort. There's not enough room for them to come around a different route and then, back their way out of the site. So that's why we are proposing that specific segment. It's only that segment that's night work. So that way the Ranch Resort is operational during the day.
Have you consulted with the residents and to hear their point of view about nighttime drilling?
The comments that came in through the CEQA process, that's when we heard about it. I also was invited a few times to witness, the current construction that's out there today. So yes, we've reached out, we've listened to residents, and this sound enclosure is really going to be something that's going to.
So you're saying that there isn't an alternative to nighttime drilling in this?
It's not drilling, it's open trench.
I'm sorry, open trench.
Yes, so
Yeah.
the area in red, that's open trench.
Yeah.
That's the only piece that'll be happening during the nighttime.
Okay, and how long is that going to take?
That could take up to a couple months, depending on how fast they can saw cut the asphalt, excavate. And as Rachel mentioned, there is time for them to set up. So they're limited with what they can do on a daily basis, but it won't be beyond a couple months at this point.
So when you say red, are you talking about the brown color that's between 20 and 28?
Correct, yes.
Okay, which is a little bit around the bend from the condominiums.
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
and that noise level is taken, I think what it said in there, 50 feet from the source, is that right? So the sound dissipates, but on the other hand, sound travels uphill too. So anyway, okay, so a couple months.
Correct, yes.
Right. Thank you.
So I know I asked you some of these, so this may be a little redundant, but I just want them on the record. As far as the staging area, because I know some of the comments from the neighbors were concerned that it was going to be roughly in the same area as the lift station construction and Can you just reiterate the two locations where you're going to be storing materials and the backhoe and that kind of stuff?
Sure. So yes, we are fully aware of, the stress that residents are under. The staging area is in the driving range, so that's station 28 on the screen.
Okay.
So that's up in the valet area, so that's tucked away.
Right.
That's one staging area. The other staging area is near Station 43. That's on the other side of the mountain in the golf range.
Okay.
So those two staging areas are what we will be using.
So those
for
are
the project.
very far away from where the station, the pump lift station 2 was
Correct.
constructed. Okay.
Yes, they're tucked away and far away from nearby homes.
There was a mention in the staff report about some lane closures. Are we talking about Coast Highway or no?
No, that's more traffic control on Country Club Drive.
Okay.
In front of Lift Station 2.
Okay.
So that will take coordination with the Ranch Resort and moving traffic over depending on how operations are moving, but
Okay.
nothing on Coast Highway.
Okay. It wasn't clear in the report, And this sort of pertains to that a little bit. In the initial study, there was some construction schedule during the period of 12/28/26 to 11/22/27, where there may be up to 26 daily haul truck trips. And I'm assuming that's would be for materials that can't be reused on site. What is I know that's about a month's worth of some pretty heavy daily truck trips, but up to that amount anyways. But are they all planning to go north on Coast Highway, or is there some alternative routes so that we're not bringing more traffic into downtown Laguna Beach and out the Canyon Road? Is there some what is the plan there? I guess is what I'm asking.
So the whole routes, the plan for those, so we have 3 points. So we have the 133 Laguna Canyon Road. The drivers will also be able to make a U-turn at the Montage and then go down towards Crown Valley.
Right.
That's the other alternative. And then the third item that I think we'll see mostly as we're working on the other side of the mountain is through Aliso Viejo. The coastal treatment plant has a access road
Okay.
that goes up to Aliso Viejo, and that will be
So potentially, depending on what you discover in terms of the reusable or not reusable soil, that about 50% of those potential trips are going to be using the third route out of the construction zone.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And just real quickly again, a couple of things I, of course, get very concerned about. And number one is, fire. And the other is any potential spillage during construction. So in terms of, fire mitigation or whatever, what just review some of the things that are going to be in place in case, somebody's using a chainsaw or something causes a spark and, we get some brush going. What are the mitigation measures for that?
This is Rachel again. There is a mitigation measure in the document for wildfire prevention during construction. I was just going to pull it up real quick here to kind of tell you what it involves, because there is recognition that it's in a sensitive area and there's been a fire there in the past. So we don't want to replicate that.
While she's looking at that, is there, why not take all of the truck trips out through Aliso Viejo?
It depends on what side of it'll depend really on what side of the mountain we're on.
Okay, because the mountain is a barrier.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think some of that alternative route sort of cut through the golf course itself on the backside of, no.
No.
Okay.
Once we get up to the valet area, we're drilling through the mountain.
I understand
and
that,
our-
but
and our exit point is on the other side.
So regarding the wildfire mitigation measure, there are a number of bullet points that are under this general requirement that follows the city fire department, who will also have review and approval prior to construction. But there are things like minimizing the potential for ignition. So that includes, parking and restrictions, idling restrictions, smoking restrictions, proper use of gas-powered equipment, and hot work restrictions. Also heeding red flag warnings and high to extreme fire danger days, making sure that all internal combustion engines at the proposed project sites will be equipped with spark arresters. Fire rules have to be posted and visible to all employees at the contractor field office and in common areas. Equipment parking areas and small stationary engine sites have to be cleared of flammable materials. Smoking is prohibited in all vegetated areas and within 50 feet of combustible materials storage, and limited to paving areas or areas cleared of all vegetation. There must be fire extinguishers and firefighting equipment sufficient to extinguish small fires on site, and all construction vehicles shall be equipped with a fire extinguisher. And all construction workers visiting the project site have to receive training on fire prevention procedures.
Well, speaking of employees, how many do you have, in a given day? Is there 20 people, 10 people? How big is a crew that's typically going to be working there?
I'd say roughly maybe a crew of 10 to 15.
Okay.
10 to 15.
And where are they parking? Just out of curiosity.
We are looking at the lot across the street, across the creek, looking at that area.
The inland side of Vallejo.
So that would be one option, or the other option is try to stick them in the staging areas.
Okay.
Keep them.
Just wanted to.
Keep everything contained to minimize impacts.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, open up for public comments. Please come to the podium, state your name, and sign the book.
My name is Rochelle Gerson. I'm here with my neighbor, Laura McCarry, and I want to appreciate the acknowledgement of the condominiums on the hillside, which we live in. We've met with Ulysses. Context for this project is we have now spent 10 years of staging, probably 7 to 8 years of the Water District project. We have spoken to them, complained to them. Nothing has been done at all. The dirt, the noise, the amount of times I had to say, the truck's backing up at 6:30 a.m. We submitted information regarding Bluetooth technology to perhaps avoid the beeping, relentless beeping. They rejected it out of hand. Ulysses knows we've had absolutely no accommodations made to us. And the assurances of the timing, years over. The only time we get communication is when we are proactively seeking communication. So I'm speaking for myself as well as all the neighbors that are completely fed up with the situation. We're not here to say, I know we're not going to impact that this project is done or not. We were also told 4 months of overnight. Now, the ranch has been given every accommodation. They can move their guests. We cannot move those who live there full time. And so we're going to have lights because we are up on the hillside. As you've said, the noise will in fact go up. The beeping will be all night. It is, we're using now every platform to say how difficult this has been. the entire city. And then we don't even know that the water district will unstage the area. It impacts the enjoyment of our living in the property, our ability to rent, our ability to sell. It's a disastrous mess. On a personal note, because I see 45 seconds, I moved there. I do have another home in the San Fernando Valley in 2002. My daughter has autism. We love surf and sand. Hotels became untenable. We moved there. For 10 years now, we can only come Saturday and leave on Sunday because of the noise, because of the beeping, because of the construction. So now it's going to be, I don't know, probably you say 18 months, years more of this. So I would like the city, the water district, somebody to account for the incredible horror of these projects. And Laura lives there full-time, so can't even get away from it. But thank you for acknowledging the condos.
So Noelle, Rochelle and I are neighbors and we're friends. She's right. We have been dealing with this for the last 10 years. Every morning I hear the beeping. Every morning I hear the beeping. We have written so many letters to the city, to the South Coast Water District, and they always say the same thing. We understand what you're going through. We'll look into it. Now we're going on 10 years. It sounds like everyone's more concerned about the ranch rather than the homeowners. We're just tired of it. You should see the mess that we look at every single day. It is a disaster. I can't even open up my windows because the dust comes in. We have rodents, we have insects because of everything that's going on. We tell the South Coast Water District and they say, we'll talk to the guys and they'll clean it up. It's never done. We're just tired. We're just tired of it. Anyway. Oh, and thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you for your comments. Any rebuttal? I rebuttal from the applicant or response to anything?
Just a clarification. So this shrouding happens wherever you're doing the open trenching, correct?
It's focused in front of the lift station and all through the night work area.
Okay.
That's the focus. So everything that is closer to the homes, that's the focus.
Right. So a portion of the open trenching area is closest up by the ranch, correct?
Yes.
And another portion is closest to these condominiums and other homes.
Correct.
And that shrouding is going to be used at both those locations, wherever the open trenching is
Yes.
happening, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there anything you can do about the beeping and backing up? Because that's independent of the trenching, right? I mean, that's just all the deliveries and trucks and all the activity. I mean, we've had this discussion before on other construction sites. And I mean, since there's so much work that's going to be done at night, it seems like it's almost more of an issue than if it was just done during the day.
I mean, it seemed what's been explained to us in the past was that was kind of some sort of federal regulation, and there was no way to waive that or come up with some other plan. Is that
That's
still?
my understanding as well. It's a OSHA regulation to have that beeping for backing up because you have to have, signalization that somebody's backing up. But Ulysses, I'm wondering how much backing up I understand there was a really tight area in lift station 2, and there probably had to, do 3-point turns and whatnot. I'm not sure that that's going to be as much of an issue for the project.
No, because we're trenching forward. At that point, there is motion backwards as they're maneuvering. But another thing I'm thinking now, what we can implement too with our inspector on site is to try to focus the operators on pushing forward and constantly keep an eye on them and try not to back up as much as possible. So we can, add those type of, information to our inspectors. 'Cause we'll have a full-time inspector and we can add definitely, those ideas.
Also,
That you look into the Bluetooth, which we did the investigation. It's OSHA approved.
Sure, I need to open if you want to.
Well, we never closed it.
Got it.
there's
Yep.
also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's also, the construction hours are pretty defined during the weekday from, what is it, like 7 to 6 or something like that. So there isn't going to be trucks backing up after, regular daytime construction hours. So
But they're working at night.
They're working at night.
not in the first phase of that. They're not. That's only when they get to the ranch part because of the ranch's requirement to not disturb their daytime activities.
But I just did a quick search about alternatives to the beeping. And there's the white noise, which is an approved backup type. So clearly and the residents are saying there are other alternatives out there too. So yeah, that's an impossible noise even during the daytime.
We can look at other options and specify in our contract documents that we would be looking for something of this nature. So that's something we can look into.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, like I mentioned, have our inspector on site full time and keep the train moving forward and minimize, the backups.
You might also be able to utilize like somebody with a flag or something when a truck is backing up to ensure that, there's no workers in the path.
OSHA requires the beeping.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They're worried about that flag guy getting crushed.
Yeah. But clearly there are alternatives out there. Now, is this something in terms of mitigation, staff? Can we make suggestions about noise mitigation?
In this case, I'd recommend I would say truly directing it to staff to look into it, to explore a little bit further. As this is a city project, it is something that would be built into a contract and ultimately executed by the city at another level. So it doesn't necessarily need to be considered as a part of this as for related to a specific condition of approval, but any recommendations could be explored further.
But could it be a condition of approval?
I mean, I would say the condition of approval would need to be specific and detailed such that if the direction is, use best efforts to reduce noise by investigation into alternative means, sure, I guess that could be a condition of approval, but everyone up here needs to realize that typically a condition of approval is like we were talking about on the other item. You either, can or cannot have cups and cones to serve gelato. That's, that's borderline. I mean, that's objective. Anyone can come and see that. A alternative condition, I guess, so I would say it's quote unquote stronger if it is a condition of approval, but there's still some discretion, still some uncertainty.
I mean, a condition of approval that would be black and white would be that backup beepers are not allowed on this project.
Well,
correct, but I
That's
would
an OSHA thing.
right. I would advise against any
Well,
condition.
no, we've heard that there are alternatives.
Yeah.
OSHA approved alternative?
That's what we're,
Yeah,
that's what we're
OSHA
saying.
approved alternatives.
I mean, I'm using that as an example. I mean, because I think there's a concern here that we can talk about, oh, yes, we'll try and do that and we'll try and do that. But in the end, they just start construction and it's business as usual.
So can I interject the very, very last bullet point of the noise mitigation measure says the use of mobile heavy construction equipment with alternative backup beeper alarm systems, which continue to provide the necessary safety warnings, but reduce the impacts of these sounds on the surrounding community shall be considered. Examples of such systems include variable loudness or ambient adjusted backup beepers and white noise reversing alarms.
White noise, yeah. Well, that shall be considered, the wording could be changed.
Shall be used.
Shall be used. Okay.
Do they have a chirping bird sound? maybe?
That'd drive them crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Do we want to have some more discussion, or do we want to move to a motion?
Let's move to a motion.
I agree. So is the motion going to be to approve this and to modify this language? Okay, someone want to make the motion?
Excuse me. So I'd like to go ahead and get some additional clarification. So the mitigation monitoring report has very specific language that's been vetted. I'd like to clarify whether we're looking to modify the language within the monitoring report or add a condition of approval that would strengthen the alternative.
I think we're modifying. I think we're making a slight modification to what was just read.
I would agree. Okay.
And by the way, that doesn't feel objectionable to you?
No, I think that makes it a stronger measure.
Okay.
And making that change doesn't trigger any additional review that some other outside agency needs to do or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
And the white noise is specifically in that language?
It is.
All right, good.
Okay. Susan, you want to make the motion?
What do I refer to? What is the mitigation number or?
Mitigation measure noise, NOI-1.
Okay. Okay, let's see.
It starts on page 114 of the MMRP. That's helpful.
Okay, all right, by motion, is this guy, right? Adopt resolution 2026-1541 to 1, adopt the initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the North Coast Interceptor Reach 5 replacement project pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, and to approve design review 2026-1541 for the project, and 3, change the wording regarding noise mitigation in the mitigation noise measure NOI-1, page 114 in the MND to read shall be used.
Can I suggest a friendly modification? In that any above ground structures in natural open space, the color be changed to a green color that blends into the natural landscape.
That's number 4.
Okay.
Second, and with that addition.
Commissioner Kellenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Goldman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Thanks, team.
Thanks for all your hard work on this. I know you've been on it for what, 3 years now? or-
Yeah.
Okay.
And try and keep it under 10 years.
All righty. Thank you for your patience. It's always tough being last.
Yeah. Simple things.
Okay. We have design review 2026-0453, coastal development permit 2026-0454, and conditional use permit 2026-0455. Any commissioner disclosures?
Yeah, I met with the applicant representative.
I did too, on site.
As did I.
I spoke with the applicant representative as well.
And I met with the applicant resident on site. Okay, Heather, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Item 6.4 is, as you said, for design review, coastal development permit, and a conditional use permit at 1947 Rimrock Road. The subject property is approximately 1.87 acres and is situated on the south side of Rimrock Canyon Road, just east of the fork that is formed by Upper Rimrock Road and Rimrock Canyon. The project site is characterized by sloping topography that descends southerly from Rimrock Road with an average slope of approximately 31.7%. The site is in the residential hillside protection zone, and it is mapped with a fault and is within a seismic hazard landslide area. Portions of the site outside the development area contain slopes of over 30%, and the property is within the very high fire hazard severity zone and has fuel modification designation. According to city records, a 1,394 square foot single-family residence with a two-car garage was constructed in 1946 under Orange County jurisdiction. Subsequently, two detached single-family dwellings and additions to the original residence were constructed on the property without obtaining the required city approvals or building permits. In July 2010, the city initiated an enforcement action with respect to the unpermitted structures on the site, and the prior owners entered into an amortization agreement with the city to establish a reasonable timeframe for obtaining the necessary permits and completing the work required to resolve the outstanding code enforcement violations. The current owners purchased the property in approximately January of 2025, and as stated in the agreement, upon the sale of the property, the new owners have submitted an application to demolish all the existing structures and construct a new compliant residence. Completion of this project will resolve the outstanding code compliance issues. So again, the entitlements requested are design review, which is required for the new structures and the associated site improvements. A coastal development permit is required for demolition of all the existing structures and construction of the new residence and detached ADU. And a conditional use permit is required to permit the detached ADU to exceed the maximum 16-foot height limit per the prescribed process in the ADU ordinance. The project includes, again, demolition of all existing structures, which total over 6,000 square feet, also demolishing an existing second driveway and parking area accessed from Rimrock Road, and construction of the new single-family dwelling with a guest room, attached two-car garage, and 4 additional uncovered parking spaces, which one for the guest room, one for the ADU, as well as 2 additional spaces. A detached accessory structure is proposed with a 536.7 square foot upper level ADU with a lower level accessory fitness room and pool bath and an attached covered patio. The project also proposes a swimming pool, spa, grading, retaining walls exceeding 5 feet in height, landscaping, fuel modification, and AM&M, hardscape, fencing, and vehicular access gate across the existing driveway. In the RHP zone, it allows 1 single-family dwelling, accessory buildings and uses such as swimming pools, and 1 guest house or guest room on the lot, subject to design review. Accessory uses are limited to 15% of the lot coverage area and must be located within 100 feet of the main dwelling and may not exceed 25 feet at height at any point. The guest house or guest room may not have a kitchen, is limited to no more than 300 square feet, and may not be rented separately. An accessory dwelling unit is also permitted. The project conforms to all the objective development standards for the zone, with the exception of the ADU height limitation. The proposed project is subject to the design review and must conform to the 11 design criteria and the 5 RHP design criteria. As the ADU is not in compliance with the objective height standard of the ADU ordinance, the ADU, associated fitness room, and covered patio is also subject to design review. Staff believes the project complies with the applicable findings and criteria as analyzed in the staff report. Particularly, the site has adequate access, the project preserves and enhances the scenic natural setting, and no natural features will be impacted. The existing terrain is being utilized in the design to minimize grading on the site. The landscaping relates harmoniously to the neighborhood and is integrated into the design of the structures, and the project is neighborhood compatible. No privacy or view equity impacts are anticipated. A coastal development permit is also required for the demolition of all the structures on the site and the construction of the new house and ADU. Staff believe the project complies with the specific findings and 9 criteria as analyzed in the staff report. This includes there will be no adverse effects on marine resources, environmentally sensitive areas, archaeological or paleontological resources, recreational or visitor serving facilities, or coastal scenic resources. The project will be visibly compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and the project will be provided with adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities. In addition, other public services have been considered and are adequate to serve the proposed development. The proposed detached ADU again conforms to all objective design standards in the applicable ADU ordinance, with the exception of exceeding the maximum allowed height of 16 feet. In addition, the ADU conforms to the main building setbacks of the RHP zone. As prescribed in the ADU ordinance, any proposed ADU or JADU that would be otherwise allowed but does not conform to the objective design or development standards set forth in the ordinance may be allowed by the city with a conditional use permit. Since the detached ADU structure is less than the maximum 25-foot height limit of the RHP zone, a variance is not required. In order to grant the conditional use permit, all required findings must be made by the commission. Staff believes the project meets the required findings as analyzed in the staff report, as the site is of adequate size and topography to accommodate the use. There is access to streets adequate in width and pavement for the traffic generated by the proposed use. There will be no substantial adverse effect upon abutting properties. The project is consistent with the general plan objectives and policies, and the conditions of approval are necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. The property contains mature landscaping, including trees, shrubs, and ground cover throughout the site. The proposed landscape plan retains existing native plantings, which will be trimmed as needed, and proposes additional native species, including coast live oak, toyon, and Catalina cherry, particularly near the open space areas and the site perimeter, to provide habitat, erosion control, and drought tolerance, and appropriate transitions into adjacent natural hillsides. Removal of several large non-native trees and palms is proposed, which will improve views from neighboring properties and will reduce the fire risk vegetation with the development within the developable portions of the site. The property is within the fuel modification zone and very high fire hazard severity zone. As such, the property and structures are required to comply with the fire code and building code standards regarding landscaping in proximity to the structures. Fuel modification plan incorporates zones 0A and B, consistent with the city's fuel modification standards, including ignition-resistant, fully irrigated plantings and required clearances. No city target species are included except where clearly identified on the plans. Additional fire protection measures are proposed due to the fuel modification width and insufficient 150-foot hose pool, both addressed through the alternate materials design and methods of construction, which is also known as the AM&M. We have received 3 letters that are in support of the project, and 1 letter was received expressing concerns about fire safety from the existing vegetation and an existing wood fence which runs along Rimrock Canyon Road. The project proposes to remove a number of trees along the road frontage and front setback, some of which are on the city's target species list. In addition, the existing wood fence on Rimrock Canyon Road will be replaced with a metal fence and will be relocated behind existing vegetation. Staff recommends the commission adopt resolution number 2026-0453, approving design review, coastal development permit, and conditional use permit, and finding the project is categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA under sections 15301 and 15303. This concludes our presentation, and we're available for all of your questions.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
I have some of staff.
Of staff, I'm sorry.
Just for my own knowledge, something like a fitness room, this falls under state density law. Would that be considered habitable space? Maybe
It is
that's-
considered habitable space under the building code because it is being used by the owners for recreation, just as a music room or art studio would be used. But it is independent of the ADU because there's no interior access. So it is a separate use from the ADU itself.
So, but because it doesn't have like a kitchen and all that, I mean, I'm just trying to differentiate, you know, the ADU law and state density law, so we don't get into some future thing where these start to become gray areas and we're struggling to try to define these things.
So the fitness room is, does not have any kitchen, any area for preparation of food. So no cooking facilities, no countertop, no bar sink. So it is just a fitness room in its of itself. The pool bath that's adjacent to it does not have an interior connection to the fitness room. And those two areas are completely independent to the ADU that is up above. So the ADU has no interior connection to that fitness room. So it couldn't be used as an expansion of the ADU. And they also have entrances on different sides of the building.
Patrick, anything to add to that? You were
Sure.
pondering something.
Well, I mean, I of course want to do my best to give you guys all the kind of the best, you know, advice staff can give you. And I think I see where you're going. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of the first time, at least since I've been here, that the PC has kind of had to deal with this intersection of state ADU law, our kind of, you know, development codes, so on and so forth, particularly too in light of a recent lawsuit that the city, I shouldn't say recent, but, you know, lawsuit that the city was involved in that dealt with under the Housing Accountability Act, what is reduction in density. I can sit up here safely and say that, I shouldn't say that. My advice to you all right now is to not look at density as just the number of units. Instead, you need to look at square footage. That case for which I am talking about did not contemplate a fitness room or kind of art studio. I cannot predict with any level of certainty how a court may interpret that. Is it different than the habitable space, the way people see it? That being said, I would encourage you all to, you know, base any decision on clear evidence in the record, how it ties directly to a finding that in this case, due to the application of the various state ADU and housing laws, if there is even a reduction of a single square foot, that needs to be taken with great care. I'm not going to sit up here today and say you can never do it, particularly with these artist studios and fitness centers. Maybe that's a little bit of a grayer area, but if that's the direction of the Planning Commission tonight, that should be thoroughly fleshed out, and it should, you know, directly link to a required finding about how any reduction, including reduction in the fitness area, that must occur in order for the Planning Commission to make one of the required findings.
So square footage, but there's also cubic footage too, which is a whole nother can of worms, I'm assuming.
Correct. So there is no authority that I can point to that says a reduction in cubic footage is the same thing as a reduction in square footage as it pertains to density. These housing laws are new.
Mm-hmm.
Not every permutation has been, you know, adjudged or opined on by a court. However, it is my position here today that reduction in cubic square footage, i.e. lowering height, once again, provided it's, you know, you can point to a specific finding, gives me infinitely less heartburn than a reduction in square footage.
I don't mean to take up the commission's time, but I just wanted to get some clarity on that. So I'm just going to throw an example of, like, so somebody comes along and they go, you know, the square footage is within the ADU state law requirement, but we love high ceilings. So we're going to go to 17 feet, but there's nothing up there. That's a different story than if somebody goes, well, the square footage is within the ADU state guideline, and we love 17 feet, but we're going to put a loft bedroom up there so that now it becomes habitable space. Where are we going to go with this? I'm sorry to.
No, I mean, that something like that, I will first pivot to the applicant and thank you for not proposing something like that. You know, how that would go. I'm kind of,
I know it's
well, yeah,
all brand new stuff.
like all things, I would say the facts of each case are going to very, very much, you know, determine if the planning commission is saying, hey, we see this square footage as a potential subterfuge and way to get around the height limit. But hey, we have no problem with you putting that square footage on the bottom floor such that the square footage remains the same. You know, that would give our office a little bit more of wiggle room than just getting rid of that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But that's probably too esoteric of a hypothetical for me to give you a strong answer on at this point.
Okay. I feel we're going to be being tested on this. Just for the record, Heather, just so it's on the record, if this ADU was built on the ground, the CUP would not be necessary, and therefore this whole project would be before DRB versus the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, if, for example, it was just, there wasn't a fitness room below and it was just on the ground, it would be well under the 16 feet. And yes, it would go to the design review board because it
Thank
would
you.
meet all the objective standards.
Thank you for indulging me for a couple of minutes.
Following up on that, the fitness room has nothing to do with the ADU.
Correct. It's an independent use. It just happens to be proposed underneath the ADU.
Yeah. And the height of the ADU from finished grade, from the entry point, is 10 feet something, right?
On that one side,
Yeah, I guess what the point I'm going toward is the ADU is not a part of the fitness center. It's a separate entity from the fitness center. Therefore, it's not a building. The ADU is not creating the height.
Right,
The
but-
fitness center is creating the height. Therefore, the fitness center is actually only 10 feet, whatever inches tall. It's the fitness center that's creating the height.
Yes, but according to the ADU ordinance, the ADU height is measured from the highest point of the roof to the lowest finished floor directly below. So because it is underneath the ADU, it is included in the height of the ADU.
But it's not the lowest finished floor of the ADU.
It's the lowest finished floor of the structure where the ADU is, and there is nothing in the ADU ordinance that would allow an ADU with a separate use underneath it and have a separate height calculation. So the ADU ordinance is very clear, the highest point of the roof to the finished floor directly below at every point.
What if there was a soil membrane between the two?
The definition of height measurement is the highest
Yeah.
point of the roof to the lowest finished floor directly
Gonna give
below.
the same answer.
Correct, yeah.
It doesn't
And-
have
and-
any, the ADU ordinance doesn't have any other methods of measurement.
Right.
So we can't, we couldn't say if they did this, it wouldn't count.
Okay.
And then too, I will add, and once again, this is a great exchange. We are happy to be here. We understand that some of these answers may not be as specific and concrete. That's intentionally done, not because we're trying to play games, not because we are trying to be, opaque. We don't know what's either in the pipeline or coming down the pipeline. I would be not doing my job if I stood up here and said, hey, Commissioner Whiten, you're right. Someone puts a soil membrane, we're not going to count it. And then down the road, 6 months later, that comes up and he goes, well, Donegan said it, and that's why I did it. So this is fine. We can continue to have these discussions, but I would caution about trying to paint staff into too specific. If you have questions about this project, we can answer all of them. And this type of, hypotheticals is good because it helps inform you, but you may not get the specific exact answer you want. And that is intentional. That's not at the direction of the city attorney's office.
Okay, now if the ADU was attached to the main house, it could be 24 feet high,
Correct, 25, correct.
25 feet high.
And which also happens to be the height limit in the RHP zone. So yes, it could go higher.
Okay. Yeah, and if I remember correctly, when we were discussing the ADU ordinance, was it last year or the year before? One of the situations we discussed was a situation very similar to this, meaning that the building is up against a hillside behind it. It's below the street and nobody can see the profile. But that language is never incorporated, right?
Right, it's just detached ADUs cannot
Okay.
exceed 6.
16. Okay, thank you.
I have a, so we're deliberating tonight, basically on the ADU variance, the height.
Not a variance.
So, right, it's not a variance. This is and I do want to, apologies, Chair. I want to be crystal clear about this. Just because this ADU exceeds that 16 feet, process is clearly articulated in the code. Once again, what they lose is kind of that more, not for the CDP, but kind of more that ministerial approval of the ADU.
Right.
But then the applicant coming here for a CUP to be in that kind of middle ground of 16 to 25, in my humble opinion, it's up to you guys to decide, is entirely appropriate. That's what the code calls for. The quid pro quo is they have to come to you tonight and say, this is why I make the findings for the CUP.
And we're not commenting on other aspects of the project that Design Review Board would otherwise.
No, you are reviewing the entirety of the project. This is coming as one project.
Okay.
The CEQA does not want piecemealing, so we are asking for design review, coastal development permit, and for
So we
all
are-
structures,
we are-
landscaping, as the DRB would.
We are in effect acting as the DRB.
Correct.
Tonight, okay.
And it's only because the conditional use permit is not under the purview of the design review board. It has to come to the planning commission, so we're bringing the entire project to
Okay.
you rather than the DRB.
Okay.
So you get everything.
Yeah, just as long as we're staying on the ADU for the second, and just to clarify, when it's the lowest floor, so if you had a completely subterranean basement below an ADU, the height would be measured from that basement floor.
There is a separate basement, a basement measurement when in the definition section of our code, under the building height definition, if a basement is truly a basement, meaning all 4 sides are completely below ground and only a certain amount of the wall or, from the ceiling down is exposed outside wall, then that doesn't count towards the height limit. We have not had an ADU that has proposed a true basement, so we would have to determine whether that would apply.
Right.
Okay, and with this existing proposed ADU, there is an adjacent attached patio cover that's directly connected to the ADU, and yet it's not being measured as part of the height of the ADU.
Again, the ADU height is measured from the highest point of the roof to the finished floor directly below. So we don't measure.
Right, but if you look at that section where you're showing the elevation, that from the floor of the attached patio cover, which is physically attached to the ADU itself, why isn't that considered part of the ADU?
It is attached to the ADU, but it is not within the walls of the unit itself. It's a patio cover. It's not habitable space. It's not part of the square footage of the ADU. It's next to the ADU. It has a door that may open out onto it, but it isn't enclosed.
So it just
but-
needs to be within 25 feet in height.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple other questions. Can you explain a little bit more about the slope issues with this particular lot, through and I was talking to Nancy Searer earlier about this today, but just to get, this on the record and stuff, as I understand it, so as explained to me that the way that the slope is measured in the residential hillside protection zone is unique to that zone, and it's measuring the highest point of the property and the lowest point of the property, and then figuring it out and saying that slope is whatever, close to 31%. But elsewhere in the staff report saying the slope's not an issue really because the middle portion of this project area is all relatively flat, and where the actual structures are all being built are on this flatter portion of the site. And so there are no slope issues, or there's nothing regarding any restrictions on building on on a residential hillside protection zone lot that is measured with a 31% slope.
The average slope of the site is 31.7%, but it can vary from point to point. You know, there may be a slightly steeper area and then a flat area and a slightly steeper. But again, it's the average slope that is 31.7%. But where the development is proposed, it's been graded obviously since 1940s. And so the development that is before you tonight is not proposing any construction in slopes of greater than 30% because the area of development is in that flat portion.
Can you also explain, there was a section in the staff report that talks about OSC policy 14J that has to do with open space easement. And it was a little confusing in the staff report because it went on to, it explains that policy. And then below it, normally in the other sections, it would have something that was responding to that issue. But the paragraph below that refers to like mitigation measures for the fire and alternative methods and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, how's that? So I was confused about that. Again, I asked the question, and what was sort of explained to me is that that's kind of a standard condition that the city may or may not request that easement in the future, or has the ability to request some sort of easement if there is some specific purpose for that easement. Say the city said, oh yeah, we want to create a trail through here or something, that the city has the ability to require that easement in the future for the next 21 years? Is that?
Yeah, let me get the condition language.
Trying to find it. It's on page 20 of the staff report.
Yeah, so there is a condition of approval in the resolution that prior to issuance of a building permit for development of the property, the applicant shall submit an offer of a permanent open space easement over that portion of the property not used for physical development or service as delineated on the approved plans. And if you can see the plan on the screen now, it's sort of the bottom right. I've crosshatched, this isn't the entirety of the area that is proposed for an open space easement, but basically this is the area that is beyond the Zone A and Zone B fuel modification areas. So this would be the remaining portion of the site outside of those fuel modification areas. And this would be the area that would be dedicated or offered for dedication. So it says only consistent open space uses shall be allowed by the easement, except for passive recreation trails or other trail-related rest areas. Development shall not be allowed in this easement area. The offer of the easement shall be in the form and content approved by the Director of Community Development and shall be recorded and run with the land and shall be irrevocable for 21 years from recordation. The creation of homeowners or others organization and or the preparation of open space management plans may be required by the city to provide for a proper utilization of the open space lands.
Heather, what happens after 21 years?
It could be revoked, but that would be a different process. It would have to, I don't know what the process would be to revoke an easement. Probably have to go through city council.
And why is it 21 years?
I can't
Why
answer
isn't
why-
it 25 years or 20 years?
That's just what's in the general plan policy and where that came from. I wasn't here then, so can't answer.
Somewhere in the staff report was talking about access. It was saying that Rimrock Road is adequate. But I remember from some previous meetings and stuff that it was pointed out that Rimrock Road is considered substandard to the city's standards, that it was, built many, many years ago under county jurisdiction and is nowhere close to meeting the current city standards. So
It's a private road, so the city does not maintain or improve it. It's on a private easement, so the maintenance would be privately done between all residents who have the rights to that easement. So yeah, so the Public Works Department cannot require widening on the private road as part of this project.
You're thinking of Upper Rimrock Canyon Road, I think.
okay.
That's,
Well, I think both of them. I think this is substandard as well.
I mean,
The
it is
paving is
substandard. But
averages around 17 feet wide along the frontage, and the easement itself is, I believe, 40 feet wide. But it's only improved to the 17.
but the other upper is public to that particular project we were
Right.
looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
So I assume if Public Works thought they could get the road widened, they would have asked for that.
Well, it's private property, so it would have to be either.
In many jurisdictions, private roads have to meet the same standards as public roads. And I'm surprised that's not the case in Laguna, but I'm not advocating anything. I'm just assuming that if they wanted, they thought it was important, they would have asked for it. So I'm not, since we don't look at single family homes very often, I don't have this design guidelines memorized. Are there any criteria that there's a 13-foot high retaining wall on one edge of it? And is there anything in the design guidelines that relate to stair stepping back or having massing and walls in some way relate to the steepness of the adjacent slopes?
Yeah, I believe in our residential design guidelines, there is discussion of stepping retaining walls. If you give me just a moment, I will find it online.
And I don't think it's egregious, but I'm just curious because it does kind of jet out at a right angle and hangs out over the slope. And it's not structural in terms of the house. It looks like it's for a patio.
Let me find it. Hold on, do a search real quickly.
I mean, did you did the staff look at that I assume that staff went through the design guidelines and did your own evaluation of the architectural massing and the site works.
Yeah, on a property this size, as opposed to maybe a site that's, in more of a 6,000 square foot lot, it would be more of a concern with the height of retaining walls with adjacent neighbors being very close by. This property, again, being over 1.8 acres, and the distance from the neighboring properties, it wasn't as much of a concern, but it's definitely within your purview if you feel that the retaining walls are too tall.
No, I don't want it to be my
so-
opinion.
Yeah.
Is there anything
Yeah, the
that's
design-
regulatory or structural in the guidelines that would address that?
Again, the design guidelines are guidelines, not objective standards. So the design objective is for terracing and retaining walls should consider views from neighboring properties and the public way. It is recommended that step retaining walls should follow the natural topography and consider using a series of terraced walls instead of one very tall wall. Design terracing and retaining walls to fit into the neighborhood context and to preserve privacy. Avoid large retaining walls in a uniform plane and break retaining walls into multiple elements and terraces. So those are guidelines in the design objective.
Thank you. That was what I was looking for. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, open the public to the applicant.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Heather, for the thorough staff report, presentation, and all the work you've done with us so far. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Nancy Sira, and I represent the property owner and the design team. Joining me are Amelia Pinto, who works directly with the designer, Bob White, and knows the project in great detail, and Jim Dockstetter, the landscape architect, who prepared the landscape fuel modification plans and assisted with the preparation, assisted with the AM&M report that Dudek prepared relating to the fire safety of the vegetation and the site. And we are all available to answer questions. I don't want to repeat what Heather said, but I do have something that I already wrote, and I'm just going to read it. This property would ordinarily be reviewed by the Design Review Board and is before the Planning Commission only because of the requested conditional use permit. The Design Review Board does not have the authority to review CUPs. The CUP is requested for the detached ADU to be more than 16 feet high. It is not a variance. And the findings can be found for the CDP as staff noted. The amended amortization agreement documents the unpermitted construction that occurred on the property over the several decades. This project directly is a direct response to that agreement. The property owner initially explored preserving many of the structures. However, after evaluation of the soils condition, undocumented construction, and structural deficiencies, it was determined that demolition and replacement would be provide the safest and most appropriate long-term solution. The proposed redevelopment also significantly improves the site. Under the RHP zoning regulations, building site coverage includes not only building footprints, but also virtually all graded and disturbed areas on the site, except for required access, such as the driveway and firefighter walkways around the structures. The project removes all four buildings, existing buildings, including the original single family, a detached two-car garage, the two-story building commonly referred to as the barn, where that contains a second residential unit and living space below, and a single-family dwelling that has attached one-car garage. The second driveway serving the upper residence will also be removed. The proposed development is concentrated primarily within the areas that are already developed and previously disturbed, minimizing the impacts to the site. I also wanted to briefly address the neighborhood outreach. I met with adjacent neighbors across the street at 1933 Upper Rimrock Road back in January, and then again 2 weeks ago to walk them through the project plans. Their primary concerns related to fire safety, the deteriorated wood fence along the driveway, landscape maintenance, and construction parking. I explained that and showed on the plans that the existing fence will be completely removed, numerous trees will be removed, new landscaping will be installed, the remaining vegetation will be reduced and maintained per the drawings and in accordance with the fire safety requirements. And most of the construction staging and parking can be accommodated on site, minimizing impacts to the neighborhood. I also spoke with a neighbor residing at 1900 Rimrock Canyon who was concerned with the potential short-term lodging, damage to the private street and her property, and ongoing construction noise. I assured her that the requested CUP was just for the ADU height and not for a short-term rental use, and the property owner plans to hire a reputable contractor and follow all city guidelines for construction. In closing, we appreciate the time and effort the city staff has devoted to reviewing this application and preparing a comprehensive staff report. We believe the project represents a substantial improvement over the existing conditions, addresses longstanding code enforcement issues, enhances fire safety, and satisfies all required findings for the requested CUP. We respectfully request that the Planning Commission adapt the staff's recommendation and approve the project. Thank you.
Good timing.
Any questions for the applicant?
I think just one. On page 27 of the staff report, it's finding number 4, our housing element encourages long-term rental units to add to our rental housing stock. What is the intent of the ADU? Is it just for family members when they come to visit, or is it going to become a rental unit? Or do you know?
This is Amelia Pinto speaking from Forest Studio. There is no intent to rent it out. It's for family members. They have, children and grandchildren that come to visit and hang out with their grandparents. It's just a place for family to gather.
Okay. That's the question I had.
Where's the 16-foot retaining wall?
13 feet.
13 foot.
There might be a couple that are associated with pushing the garage
into the hill, and there are wing walls.
What I'm talking about is hanging out over it's holding up the patio right
Right.
out over the edge of the slope there, that one
Right.
corner.
So where you saw the staking for the metal trellis that comes off of the
Yeah,
house,
yeah.
that patio is a floor above the walkway below. And so that is also 13 feet high. So
So-
it looks like part of the building.
Right, it's not adjacent to the open space.
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it is.
Well,
It hangs out over the open space.
Well, depends on what you mean by open space. There's a walkway and a wall below it that creates a plinth that the house sits on.
Yeah.
Below that wall and walkway is sloped area that's not part of the open space easement offer.
There's a low retaining wall, and then there's the walkway
Yeah.
for fire access, and then there's the tall retaining wall that's more integrated into the house and creates the patio, yeah. It's nice stone. It's shown as a very beautiful stone facade on it.
Yeah, it's integrated into the architectural.
Yeah, it's part of the massing of the
Right.
house, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just, on further study, I noticed that it was obviously bothering the architect as well. And so there's an enclave that's pushed in and a bench to sort of break up the massing of the wall.
It's my request.
Yeah, yeah, it's,
Excuse me, I actually had one other question and it had to do with demo and construction staging. Because I know, the road is, it's a private road and it's, not real wide. And I'm suspect that some of the neighbors were concerned about, the number of construction workers or trucks and all that. So what is the plan for that?
You developed the staging plan?
On our staging plan, we have, there's a large flattened area that's already been developed on the site. So we have an area marked out for construction vehicles. And we do have notes that if for some reason on-site parking can't be accommodated to the quantity of vehicles that need to be there, that the general contractor needs to provide a carpool shuttle from public parking down, the hill, for the workers to then be shuttled up to the site.
Well, when you say public parking, I don't think there's any parking on Temple Hills Drive anywhere.
Down off of Glen Eyrie,
Okay.
and like Talia Street, there's metered parking down there but there should be adequate parking on our site.
Okay. And as far as any, obviously there's going to be some heavy equipment, involved in the demo process, I'm guessing. And is that all staged on the property itself or?
Yes, so our construction staging plan is on sheet A 1.8. So we will be utilizing, the driveway approach has a flattened area that can be used for parking or staging equipment. We have a few different spots we can kind of tuck.
Maneuver around in there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ken, you're last up.
What questions?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, any public comment? I see none. So we'll close the public.
Unless they want to rebuttal to the.
You want to rebuttal the no public comment?
No, I did want to mention, George had a question about future ADU and two-story, and I just, as you were thinking, I think like you, like, what can they do to make it bad? And if, just hypothetically, in this case, if somebody wanted to take the top and connect it to the bottom and make a second bedroom, they're allowed 1,000 square feet, and it virtually could be done. Because you add it together, it's 1,061 square feet, and then you cut a hole in it for the stair. You're now a 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot ADU, which meets the code. Just wanted to throw that out there because it could happen. But that's not what they're planning.
Yeah.
But we do have a condition that any modification to the ADU, if it were to be approved as proposed, would require a subsequent conditional use permit modification. And also within the ADU ordinance, there is a limit to 1 story for an ADU.
Oh, okay.
For a detached. So they actually wouldn't be able to make this into a 2-story
Okay.
ADU
But
without the CUP.
right. But regardless, it's so small.
Yeah.
Even if you combine them, it would meet code. But it can't have 2-story. I didn't know that one. Thank you.
I just see a thing in the future where somebody goes, well, we're going to put a workout room and put our ADU on top of that, and it's going to be 20 feet high. And it's all habitable space. So there's a can of worms down the road, I think.
Okay.
I just one more question. This is not a variance,
That is correct.
and is this potentially precedent setting?
So like any conditional use permit, CUP, once again, let's go back to the original item tonight with the gelato shop. Sure, is there a desire from the city, and I believe the planning commission, to treat each applicant fairly and consistently such that, applicants kind of know what they're going to get? Sure. In these instances with these findings, the more that, because once again, I cover the DRB as well as the appeals to the city council. Laguna Beach is one of the most unique topographical cities we have. And so this is not like I grew up in Huntington Beach. My parents lived in a giant tract house that it was all rectangles. And hey, if the neighbor got it, it's identical. It's the exact same floor model. It's very difficult for the city to say house here, house 2 doors down, there's something different. So sure, there is a consistency that the city wants. In my experience, each case is so unique that should there be impacts, whether that be to a public view shed of the ocean or some other coastal resource, they are not, a future applicant is not going to be able to point to this project and say, hey, just because you gave it to them, you must give it to me. Now, once again, it would be incumbent upon staff and you all to say, hey, we understand we did it for them, but this is why this project is different, and to articulate those. I will say that the precedent, because once again, I've thought about that as well. And just to caution, it could, in theory, go both ways. What do I mean by that? We have this process set up in the code for reasons, right? We had to give our ADU ordinance to HCD. We had to give our ADU ordinance to the Coastal Commission. And they basically said, so on, maybe not the Coastal Commission quite yet, but HCD kind of said, hey, we are good with this. Part of this is this idea that above 16 and then below the height limit, which was 25 in this, 25, there is this discretionary CUP process. If that discretionary CUP process results in no every single time, now, once again, I'm not saying approve this one. I'm not saying you have to approve some in the future. That same precedent argument could be thrown against the city and say, hey, HCD or a court, look at Laguna Beach. That CUP is all subterfuge. Why? Because they've looked at, I'll take a number out of my head, 9 of them, and it's 0 for 9. You cannot tell me that every single 9, not a single one of them, they could make the findings. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that precedent can go both ways if you say yes or no.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah. All right, close the public hearing. Commissioner comment?
I don't really have a lot to add. I'm looking at the renderings and, how everything's positioned. I mean, I think there's been a lot of thought and care put into, a complete scraping of this property and rebuilding the home and with the architectural style, the materials, they all seem very appropriate and well thought out. So I really don't have any glaring red flag or anything that troubles me about the redesign of this entire property. So we've been tasked with this sort of unusual situation of looking at a residential property because of the conditional use permit that is required. So it's something that is not a normal thing for us to be doing, but I can say that I think there's been a lot of consideration to the design, to the landscaping, to the fire mitigation measures, inclusive of removing, the questionable palm trees and fencing and things that some of the neighbors were concerned about. So, we'll see how things shake out down the road with the ADU situation. So, but that's for another time. So I will be casting my vote in the favorable zone for this.
In the fuel modification favorable zone.
Yeah.
I think this is a really beautiful project in terms of how willing it is to work with basically the existing lay of the land, and to create a compound that is smaller in square footage than what already exists there, which is of course illegal, but regardless, they still could support more square footage on this almost 2-acre parcel, and the owner has chosen not to, and has instead created a really rambling but interesting compound that takes advantage of the existing grades and isn't trying to do anything really radical with it. It's below the road, the Rimrock Road. It does not impact anyone's views, meaning not just the house itself, but also this ADU, which exceeds the allowable height. It cannot be seen really from anywhere except from within this residential compound itself. The fire issues have been thoroughly addressed, the concerns of the neighbors regarding the fire issues, and also all the city requirements regarding fire mitigation and fuel modification have been addressed. I can make all the findings, the design review findings for the architectural portion of the project, and I can certainly make the CUP findings for the ADU. It's just not an impactful building, and for that reason, I can make the findings. It's, as I said earlier, this is an instance that we discussed when we were reviewing the ADU ordinance, that there might be situations where there were buildings that were up against, for example, the canyon wall out here, right here, and perhaps there should be different criteria. Perhaps we should allow a 2-story ADU in instances like that. This is not quite that because it's not a 2-story ADU, but it does exceed the allowable 16-foot height. But I don't, I think the conditions can be made to support that. So I'm supporting the project.
I agree. I think it's a beautiful, elegant design, and it's understated relative to the size of the project, and it works into the slope. It doesn't block any views. I think the key factor here for me is the fact that it doesn't require variance. I mean, this is written to actually welcome consideration of something of variations from the objective standards if they're reasonable. And I think in this case it is reasonable. I mean, the building, the ADU is actually lower than the existing building that's there now. It actually drops the height. And it's somewhat ironic that it's actually lower than the adjacent mass, which isn't an ADU, which is higher. And it's on the downhill side. The height is that exceeds the 16 feet, not the street side although it is a public view from like a quarter mile away on the other side of the canyon. But I think given the landscape and the distance, that I don't think that really becomes a factor. So I think this is a perfect example of where a conditional use permit process makes a lot of sense to allow good design and some variation from an objective standard. I think the 13-foot wall does kind of stress the design guidelines. It specifically suggests that walls be staggered and stepped back. Although I think in this case, because of the stone treatment and the fact that there's a alcove that breaks up the massing of the wall, it actually becomes kind of an interesting architectural element rather than just a big, retaining wall. And so I think that moderates any kind of variation from interpretation of the design guidelines. So I think with all of that, I think I would be positive, in terms of an approval.
Well, there's a whole lot of positives about this project. As a professional engineer, the fact that there's these unpermitted, major, pretty large unpermitted structures that have existed for this many years in that area, is scary, and it's really a public nuisance and impending problem to the point where the city got involved in it all. So it would have been extremely difficult, if not just outright impossible, to try to bring those existing structures up to current code, particularly when, who knows if they met code when they were built or when they were built. And so that's a real positive aspect. I'm glad that the applicants took the proposal just to scrub it and start over. The removal of the second driveway is a positive aspect. The overall architectural design, I think, is very attractive and really nice, and they did a really good job with that. And I can make the findings for all the design review, applicable design review criterion. The landscape improvements are really good. It's improving the overall fire safety of the overall finished site. But when these structures are built, and they're going to be built to the current code, including enhanced fire safety standards that have occurred over the years, and many of them occurred more recently. The open space easement, whether or not that'll ever effectively be utilized by the city or not, just the idea of it. The only real, couple little negative things that concern me a little bit, there's significant lighting. There's a lot of exterior lighting on the structures themselves, 32, I believe, and there's 75 site lights. So we're, over 100, lighting fixtures for this project, which I would, in some cases in the past, I may ask for a reconsideration or a reduction of that, but because of the uniqueness of the site, the separate buildings, the large open space, and lots of pathways between them and around the whole site, I think that lighting is probably required, and that it will meet the city's good neighbor lighting policy and all that. So they're not proposing any, giant floodlights lighting up the canyon below or anything like that. So really what it comes down to for me, and the only reason why this is before us and we're put in this position of doing the design review analysis, is because of this request to have a higher than typically allowed ADU height. So that's really, other than just focusing on the general design review, was, okay, what about this increased ADU height? And if I could see any potential negative impact to the general public or to the neighbors in any way, then I would probably have an issue with that request. But I just don't see any of that with this particular project. It's just because of the location. It's just it's not creating a privacy issue for neighbors. It's not creating a view equity issue for neighbors. neighborhood compatibility issues, none of it. So, this is, an example where that, it's not creating a problem. And I see that it can be allowed in this condition. Some of the other issues, and also again, because of its location and stuff, where we're talking about, some of the retaining walls and their appearance of mass and stuff, again, because of its location, it's just not going to be that visible from other areas other than maybe all the way across the canyon. So I can make the design review findings, the CUP findings, coastal development permit, and then I agree with the staff's analysis and the CEQA exemption. So I'm willing to support the project as currently proposed.
Just one little thing. I think there's a typo in the staff report about the lighting. I think the numbers were transposed. I think it's 57, not 75.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, that's impressive.
I had the same reaction. I had the same reaction, 75. So then I went and read
And you
through
count?
it. No, not that crazy. But anyway, yeah.
I don't have much to add that's already been said. It's just a beautiful project. You're really maximizing a beautiful piece of property. It's very well done, and through modification, the landscaping, everything is just very tastefully, nicely done. So I'm fully in support of it as well. Okay, you want to make a motion, Miss Light Person? Like just looking to the left for a motion every time.
Planning Commission moves approval of Design Review 2026-0453, Coastal Development Permit 2026-0454, and Conditional Use Permit 2026-0455.
I'll second.
Oh, whoops, excuse me, and finding said action exempt from CEQA.
I'll second.
Commissioner Kellenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Goldman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm curious, how long have you been going through this process on this project with the city?
Submitted it last November. So November 20th, I think it was, or November.
Only 9 months.
Was it?
Zoning clearance at the end of March.
Yeah.
And our clients couldn't make the first hearing.
Right, postponed it.
Postponed.
How long did it take to put together those plans?
Many nights. Amelia did most of the drawing. Well, Jim did the landscape plans.
A lot of coordination between civil and DUDAC with the AM&M report.
Because they
Yeah.
bought the property, you said January 2025?
That's
enormously fast.
Yeah.
We started design in May, I believe. So
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like 73 pages of plans just for zoning. So now we start into the structural engineering.
How long do you think it'll take to construct this? Is 3
Mm.
years between now and getting done?
Well, it would be nice to say 2 years, but who knows? Could be longer.
Spectacular site.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay.
Thank you, Heather. Good staff report.
Yeah. Dope. Do we have any other business? Or not?
I had a couple questions. Number one, to Mr. City Attorney, what is the protocol on planning commissioners donating to city council members' reelections or
Correct.
elections?
Correct. So the planning commissioners, you guys do not lose your First Amendment right such that there is no city legal prohibition. The Levine Act, which talks about, hey, and well, let me go back up. The city's maximum donation amount mirrors that of the Levine Act, such that you can only, contribute up to that. If it didn't and you exceeded that, there's certain ramifications, not for your appointment to a planning commissioner, but if you applied for an entitlement or you had a contract or a permit with the city, that person for which you donated in excess of that amount would not be allowed to participate for 12 years, excuse me, for 12 months, 1 year. But other than that, it is really up to your guys' own discretion. There is no legal prohibition, once again, other than our, amount. And so, this is America, First Amendment. You guys are free. I can't tell you guys you can't. It is up to you how. Definitely not, Mr. Chair. And I'm the assistant city attorney. Thank you.
And then my second question is, what's happened to above Aliso Beach? There's the Caltrans sidewalk and there is the metal fence, and then there's a chain link section that just keeps sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. When are they going to fix
Yep,
that?
that's a great question. So I did reach out when you prompted this question earlier today, spoke with the city engineer, and they said they're already in active conversations with Caltrans, but we don't have a date certain for when that will be replaced.
Why was that a holdout? What happened?
It's a wonderful question.
I mean, it's just.
I just drove by that the other day and I thought the exact same thing. I thought, oh, there must be some special reason, utilities or something where they needed access through the fence.
When you're driving south on your right, above Aliso, there's the, just beyond the entrance to Aliso, there's the new sidewalk with the metal picket fence.
Yeah.
And then then there's a section that's just been chain link. Yeah.
Right in between, because it's the metal fence,
Yep.
chain link, and
Yep.
then there's a section of metal fence beyond it too.
I thought maybe there's going to be a fancy overlook with a special fence. Probably not.
Oh,
I have a question. Several months ago, we approved a new design for Las Brisas dining on their parking lot. And it was actually kind of a reduction of the space. Can you, I would like to, I can't remember when that was. And I'd like to go back and look at what we approved.
So I
Because
can
it
go ahead
seems to me
Mhm.
that that's not what's there now. I'm curious as to.
Okay. So following this meeting, I can go ahead and forward over the actual approvals. It was from last summer. If I had to estimate, it would have been around maybe June or July.
Yeah.
And that was for a temporary use permit within their parking lot area. It was for a reduction and it allowed for other minor changes within that space as well. That program itself has sunset, though there are some other programs that are kind of in development. So the city council has contemplated extensions for those temporary uses while they're
So
still
they never
building out this program.
implemented what we approved.
I haven't been out there personally to see it, but what I can do is I can take a look and also send you over the approval so you can compare for yourself. Now,
Just because we approve something doesn't mean they have to do it.
That is correct, although it does expire.
I also noticed when I was driving in South Laguna that the West Street staging area is in the process of getting returned back to normal. So, yeah, so they're done with that staging area. Yeah.
Is there any update on, the Bluebird undergrounding project? All the transmission lines and everything haven't come down yet. I know that's an Edison thing, which they're notoriously slow but it's funny that, all the undergrounding is done and all the telephone poles and wires are still sitting there. Well, it's all, Diamond and all of that. Oh, okay. Well, whatever that district was,
They were out there today pulling wire.
they were.
Yeah, so I don't think it's done. Yeah.
Oh,
And when they did our neighborhood, that was the very last thing to happen. Was
Okay.
taking down the lines. I mean, they wait until everything has to be commissioned and working and everything.
Oh, yeah.
You want to adjourn us?
If you want to make a motion, next meeting.
There is no need for a motion if you guys would like to. But as the chair, you are free to say meeting adjourned. But if you want to make the motion and vote,
I was.
I know it's not new. It may have been a function of the kind of the COVID. And once again, if it is a unique quirk to this body, please continue. I will gladly sit here for the extra.
well, I move we adjourn until August 19th, 2026, regular meeting at 6 p.m.
Done.
I know.
If we're going to do a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Sorry, guys.
Mr. Kallenberg,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Sadler?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten? Chair Pro Tem
Yes.
Dubin? Chair Goldman?